and welcome episode 113 Wrestling from Red Leaf Retrocast. All out. I don't know what else to call this because holy shit. I think that's what a lot of people are going to be curious to talk about. I am JD. You are Ricky here for even the intro part of it. You got back from seeing All Out live, but first, gotta do the plugs. Gotta get this out of the way quick. Joshi 2010s. If you love the women's wrestling, you love the Stardom stuff later and all the Joshi scene, you will love the Joshi 2010s journey going on. Out of the dark ages of Joshi wrestling. We're in 2012 now. We're about to do the Bull Nakano. Actually, when this episode comes out, it'll be the Bull Nakano official retirement show. Very famous show and episode that we'll be doing there. Got my LLPW episodes once a month, so you can carry on with that. Just had we're 18 months into that, essentially. And then going on still is our full Stardom 5-Star Grand Prix in-depth reviews of each and every show with big analysis, attendance thoughts, various places. Because one of the big things Stardom is doing is expanding outside of Tokyo, and even Bushi Road themselves was focused on that in their recent financial presentation of the last quarter. So if you really want to get into a lot of the women's wrestling, Joshi 2010's Stardom 5-Star Grand Prix and LLPW is where it's at. For the rest of this episode, we're going to be doing All Out, brief indie thoughts coming, plus New Japan, more Stardom, and among other Joshi wrestling. Little Dragongate thoughts, and we get into the classic retro episodes, All Japan Women Classics, also featured on All Japan Women Destiny feed. We're on episode 76 in the heart of the Japan Grand Prix. And then Nitro, September 27th, 1999. Bischoff is fired and Russo is coming. He is very close. So this is like the in-between period of when Bischoff wasn't there and Russo wasn't there. So that's what you have to look forward on this episode here.
And you realize there was a time that there was a gap.
Right. Yeah. There's some weird things happening. Lex Luger's been repackaged as the total package. Dustin Rhodes is coming. Hogan is a good guy, beating everyone up, looking like a superhero. Goldberg and Sid Vicious are building to their big match at Halloween Havoc. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So I've already got that recorded at this point in time when you and I are recording. That's like an hour just on that Nitro episode. But indie thoughts, Ricky. Here we go. I'm going to go down mine real quick. I watched, I guess New Japan's not indie, but I watched September 5th and 6th of New Japan, the Burning shows from Cork and Hall, where they allegedly only had 700 people there. Looked like a lot more, but they allowed cheering, and it made just a totally different environment, even for just the standard tags and singles, like Bad Dude Tito and Minoru Suzuki. It felt like a 5-star match with the crowd actually cheering for once. Hiromu came out, riled up the crowd. I really liked the September 6th main event, where it was Kenta and El Phantasmo against Shingo and Hiromu. Just good stuff, crowd interaction, actual booing, actual cheering. Hiromu getting they're playing to the camera a lot. It felt good to have an actual New Japan cheering crowd back, and it's just going to be that much more depressing when you watch another show and they're back to clapping. So I need the cheering back in Japan, so bad. I need that.
Absolutely. I mean, we've had this discussion before too. It's a major reason why I got out of New Japan during the pandemic. I mean, obviously they made questionable booking decisions as well, but I just could not get into.
It's tough.
Most of the matches without the crowd interaction we're used to.
Yeah. I watched some Noah and I kind of turned it off. Noah's just not for me. I say this all the time. It's just very dry. It's just wrestling. I definitely need more variety in there. And I already watched Dragongate, but more Dragongate thoughts later. Now, I watched a JCW show last night. Jersey Championship Wrestling.
Usually they put on a decent show, but you had thoughts on this one.
This show was horrible. It was really bad. Super bad. every single match was like a hardcore deathmatch kind of thing. People are bleeding all over this mat. The lighting's terrible. Like, get some lights, guys. The mat's all ripped up. It's GCW dark. That's what it is.
It is. In different venues, and different circumstances, I guess they've put on. I've only watched 2 ACW shows in recent memory, but I've talked about both of them here. I thought they were both okay. One of them had Takeshita versus Cole Radrick. One of them had that guy that I keep talking about, who we're starting to see more, Axton Ray versus BMO Mike Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that show was a victim of circumstance or what.
I don't know.
Haven't seen it.
It's sure. Like, I'm watching this, and Cole Radrick's not for me. Like, I get that a lot of these guys are for their crowd, right? You wouldn't catch me at a JCW show unless there was some special circumstance, like a Takeshita being there. Okay, but it's weird because the entire show is essentially it almost feels like an H2O show. Be honest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then just right in the middle of it, or in this case, at the end, there's an actual, like, good wrestling match. Because every match is just, like, people bleeding, hitting each other with shit. Or it's goofy indie stuff that you kind of expect. Like, Mike Bailey and Yoya had a quote-unquote martial arts match. And it's essentially a lumberjack match, but there's ninjas on the outside. Ninjas. Right?
That's funny.
No, it was funny. I was like watching it, and I was like, okay, they're making it work. It's a goofy shtick. Why it's the semi-main event, I don't know.
Mike Bailey, probably.
And they're doing some good things. It's wacky stuff. I'm entertained. I will admit it. But the problem is, I had watched like all these terrible hardcore death matches prior.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm so over it. Just bring out Jungle Kiona already. I'm begging you. Like, because that's what I was doing. It's Jungle Kiona's return match. Her first official match, not an exhibition, in 2 years. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching this show just going, Jungle Kiona and Masha Slamovich are going to come out here. And I was like terrified they were going to have like some hardcore death match too. Because everything else was that. And there's these dudes just sweating. This mat's getting more and more like dirt all over it as the night goes on. I was like, they're going to change out the mat before these like women come out and have a match, right? Surely. And then I'm just going, they're not going to do that. And the mat's like getting torn up from what they were doing. There's just blood everywhere, and it's staining the mat. And I'm just thinking to myself, there's so many like women's wrestling fans or Joshi fans. They're going to pop in for this JCW show. They're going to look and be like, look, it's Jungle Kiona's return match. I'm so excited. Masha's awesome. What the fuck am I looking at? It's just so grimy. And I'm looking at it. Masha comes out. She's cool. She's got the Oni mask on. Jungle Kiona's music hits. She's got this like Japanese like flower feel to her. She's got the nice kimono. She comes out. She reveals the new gear. The music kicks on. It's really cool. She's got this sick like purple and black gear going on kind of deal. A little bit of red. And I'm like, it's great. You got all this new gear. She looks great. She's definitely like not skipping leg day. She's in phenomenal shape. And she's like in a crossface with her face on the mat next to this just massive blood puddle stain. I'm like, oh.
Optics of that. Very unfortunate.
Right. Like everything from presentation and optics, I found myself just more sad than anything. And I'm like, the match is good. It's really just, it's pretty good for a return match. She hasn't wrestled 2 years, like I said. Masha was clearly kind of holding some stuff back. Like, they weren't doing suplexes on their necks or anything at that point in time. Mm-hmm. They're doing some spin kicks. They're building it up. Just good, solid wrestling. The crowd actually was like super into Jungle Kiona. I'm like, if JCW was more of this and not just the constant hardcore, because if you have the same match over and over again, I don't care what show it is, where it is, what indie promotion, what major league promotion, if you keep having the same thing, you grow numb to it all and you lose interest.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But regardless, the match was fine. It was good. I gave it like 1 out of 3. They didn't try to kill each other out there. They didn't do any like epic near falls. And Jungle Kiona kept avoiding the big like heel kick from Masha that she does. And as soon as Masha hit it, she got her in that half package pile driver and pinned her. 1, 2, 3. So death taxes, Jungle takes the big L. Nothing. Things never change.
I'm not familiar with her work, so I'm looking forward to her.
You should watch.
US
You should go check out that match. It's free on YouTube. JCW.
I plan on it. Like I said, I was out last night. Otherwise, I probably would have. Yeah, I was actually out of my house once. Otherwise, I probably would have watched it live, and I probably would have had competing thoughts for you on it. But
and then they announced later in October, Jungle will return to JCW, and I'm like, oh, she's on Twitter. She's all excited to be wrestling again. I'm so happy because she's one of my favorite wrestlers to watch, and like I'm excited to see her wrestle again. But then I had this like epiphany after the match. And I'm looking at it going, okay, she's not going to be in Japan all that often, it seems, at least for the rest of this year, from just knowledge of bookings and where she's at. She's going to be wrestling every weekend. But here's my problem. She's way too good to be like wrestling on JCW bloody mats and wrestling in these like East Tennessee warehouses or you get what I'm going? She's way too good to like go back to the Joshi indie scene and wrestling in like Shinkiba in front of 100 people.
Sure.
So I'm like, would I rather see her wrestle in these venues against like lower opponents over and over again, or would I rather see her sign with like Stardom again or AEW? Where in Stardom, I know she's not going to get pushed all that well, but she could be a great mid-carder, as she was. Or sign with AEW, where she wrestles a handful of times a year, and in front of a major league audience, and who knows what might happen. She might get the occasional big-time like match, even if it's on Dark or something. Would I prefer that? Like those various options there. And I was like, I think I prefer like the major league option. Because at this point in her career, she's in her 30s. She's already done like the indie grind. Like we have a whole history of that. Why would I want to see that again? That's kind of my take.
Again, I'm not familiar with her work or her career, so I don't have
think of it this way.
Insight in this area.
You have this wrestler you've watched for many years, like do the indie grind, and they get injured, and the options there perhaps for them to, let's even say, sign with Impact or sign with AEW or WWE or go to Stardom or New Japan or something. Instead, they go back to insert indie in middle of nowhere or doing hardcore matches or doing intergender matches. Like, you've already seen it. Wouldn't you want the person to try to move up?
That makes sense to me, especially with someone who is, let's say, advanced in their career. And if they did sign with AEW or even Impact, they could continue to take indie dates the way many people do if they chose. So
right, like we watch Hikaru Shida. She's still in AEW and she's taking bookings abroad and whatnot. So like options are there. I'll even make a sports reference. Like if you see this prospect in AA and you're a fan, you don't want them to just like stick in the minors
stay there forever,
career.
Right?
You want to see if they can make it in the major leagues. Like would their career be more interesting as like a utility player on the Colorado Rockies, or you want to see them do fuck all in like Los Angeles in the minors?
I want to see anybody play for the Rockies because we've.
Well, I know, but that like that's.
But yes, no. But yes, that is a great metaphor, and I'm with you.
Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts there. So you saw some indie shows when you went to All Out Weekend.
That is true. So we discussed how we weren't sure if we would attend the 11 p.m. Cup Stuff show, the one that went off after Rampage. We ended up not going, which was unfortunate because I've heard some decent things about it. But we were just wiped. Like,
yeah. So what did you end up going to?
Oh, we went to the War Games show, Art of War Games, on Saturday night.
Okay. What was the big match attraction there? Like, what was your favorite match?
The main event was the War Games match, and it was a tag team War Games match. It was Alex Colon and John Wayne Murdoch versus the Briscoes versus Bussy versus Gear Crew, which is Mance Warner and Matthew Justice, and then
that sounds like a fun chaos type match.
It was absolute chaos, carnage, light tubes flying all over the place.
Yeah.
So it was really fun,
worth the time,
and entertaining. Then? Yes. So the other shows, the other matches that I was excited about before the show, though, was Blake Christian versus Alex Shelley, which was as good in real life as it sounds on paper.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a blow away, 5-star match, but it was solid and it was everything I wanted it to be.
Sounds fair to me.
And then there was a tag team match between Aussie Open and Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver.
Oliver.
Was a great match.
Aussie Open will get the best out of everybody. Nick Wayne's good.
Nick Wayne is great. Jordan Oliver is improving all the time.
Sure.
I think he's improving. The way Aussie Open put these guys over, though, was spectacular.
Oh, they lost?
I did miss. Yes, they lost.
Aussie Open lost.
No. Sorry. Aussie Open put them over in defeat. Wait, what am I trying to say? Yes.
Okay.
Aussie Open won, excuse me, but put Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver over.
Okay. They gave them the best match they possibly could.
Defeat. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Crowd loved it. I mean, a GCW crowd, especially a traveling GCW crowd, is just riotous. And arena is the most, I think we talked about this going into it. It is the most uncomfortable I've ever been in my life. This is 2 years in a row now. They wrestle at this like giant field house, like an indoor, it's like an indoor soccer field. If it's air conditioned, it is not well ventilated. I'm not sure it's air conditioned at all. Fortunately, it wasn't like 100-degree weekend in Chicago. And the night of War Games actually was pretty cool. I think it was topped out around 70 degrees. So inside the arena, it was probably only about 95.
Oh, that's still pretty brutal.
I can't even stress to you how uncomfortable this GCW arena is.
You know what I started doing at like indie shows where like I know the venue's going to be stupid hot and not ventilated. I actually bring like a towel with me. Cuz I got a few like wrestling towels. I'll just kind of wear that on my shoulder and then I can like just actually like wipe myself. Cuz you're just sweating constantly in a venue like that.
I planned my wardrobe accordingly. I didn't do my hair. I put a headband and slicked back and
right cuz you're just going to sweat anyways.
Like,
yeah.
Knew that. Fortunately, we did have seats. We did pay for seats instead of GA, so that made it a little more bearable.
Yeah, you're not standing the whole time. Yeah, I feel you on that one.
So that was really fun. The opening match, I missed the opening match because I was at the EW Heels meetup.
Any good? Anything notable? Or just kind of a good time?
It was not as much fun as last year's All Out meetup. First of all, there was no booze. Last year's All Out meetup was at the arena.
No booze. I guess that's to prevent Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, clashing, right? No. Clearly,
it was on the club. It was on the club level of the arena last year. We had a bartender. There were some snacks, and I would say 80% of the women's roster showed up and mingled, and it was just like a fun cocktail party. This one, Not to say it wasn't great to see everybody in person and still be a part of the community, because I don't want to undersell how much I love heels and how welcoming and supportive the community is. This event was underwhelming, especially compared to the prior year.
Oh,
It was at the convention center, the same place where they had held Fan Fest. They just sectioned off a portion of the room. You know how like those convention center rooms are like
yeah.
bigger than football fields. They just sectioned off a portion of the room. Had like Costco sodas and snacks. No booze. Just fine. I don't need alcohol to have a good time.
Right.
What I was basing my expectations on the experience I had the prior year.
Sure, of course.
And let's see. There were no chairs. There were no like high top bar tables to like lean on or anything.
So it was like just an empty
just
space.
Kind of stood around. It was just an empty space. And only AEW roster members who showed up were Aubrey, Leva, and Vicky, who are like the ringleaders of heels. They like run it now that Brandy's gone. Nyla, Sarah Hogan, Diamante showed up for a bit. And that might be it.
Wow.
Now,
and this was on Saturday?
This was Saturday night.
Okay.
Granted, Aubrey did explain, she's like, some people weren't booked this weekend, and so they're just not here.
Right.
And
I would imagine like people like Baker, and I imagine Rosa just didn't show up at all that weekend. Sheeta, and I imagine that they all were busy like getting ready for a title match situation on a pay-per-view. Same thing with Jade and Athena. So
understandable.
Yeah. That's kind of a bummer though. You would think like you'd get like Serena Deeb or someone there who's not doing much.
Right. I was
Madison Rayne, the coach.
Compared to the prior year, it was a bit of a disappointment. But if it was my first one, I would have loved it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
And like I said, being amongst these women, we all have a common interest.
Sure.
Many of them I know pretty well by now.
How many people would you say show up to this thing?
So I actually asked Leva how many registered members there are, how many people typically show up for the monthly Zoom calls,
right?
How many people RSVP'd for the in-person. He thinks there's about 500 registered members of AW Heels. Zoom calls usually attract about 200 people.
Oh, so that's good. That's good. That's a good like ratio turnout. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you consider that there are members from all different time zones and overseas, it is a pretty good turnout. And then for this event, granted I left early-ish, but there were probably 50 people there. Maybe more.
Okay.
There is a group photo. I could legit count. And Aubrey was really great to do the group photo in the first hour of the meetup because she knew a lot of us were leaving for GCW.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because we have a new website and a new platform, which is way more encouraging to interact and post. It's more like a social media platform. The previous website was kind of just a site.
A lot of people gave this. A lot of people I've seen like online chatter and whatnot of the idea of heels kind of being almost condescending. It's a bad idea kind of situation. I go, everything you keep saying is it's like, look, it's a club. You're in the club. You pay the club membership and you get all the club perks and whatnot. It sounds like a club to me.
It's a club. It is a fan club. $50 a year is not that ridiculous, right? Especially for
and considering you travel to these shows and you're involved with all these, it seems like it pays for itself at this point. I
think so. Yeah. And again,
and you do the Zoom calls and you like that. You generally enjoy them, so
generally yes. I understand why people might not be interested, and like I travel to all these shows with my male partner,
sure.
But there are a lot of women that travel either alone or with girlfriends, or they just don't have female friends in their lives who understand wrestling. And so
Yeah.
this is a great place to find that type of camaraderie. I don't have a lot of female friends in my life, period. I have more female friends joining heels I have probably in my life.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
let's go back to, sorry, get off topic, but that's why I was late for GCW.
That's fine. Fine.
And then, sorry, Sunday morning before All Out was Effie's Big Gay Brunch, which is always a fantastic event. It's always just fun, again, to just be part of that crowd and that audience. The buzz that I heard following Effie's Big Gay Brunch was that it was the best wrestling of all of the GCW shows.
I heard the same chatter, yeah.
And I had only been to War Games, but based on the cards and everything that have been announced, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Right.
Kid Bandit was murdered by Puro.
I saw that gif.
Murdered.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
Like in front of my face, by the way. Because we had second row seats with our backs to the hard cam, so all of the stuff to the outside came into our laps.
Oh my god.
It was terrifying. Ashton Starr came out with sunglasses and a hat, and after he made his entrance, he took off his hat and revealed that his dreadlocks had been cut off.
Right, I saw that too.
Like, what?
That's a good little swerve for character change. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and wrestled as a total heel against Sandra Moon. That was a really, really fun match. That might have been my match.
What did you think of Sandra Moon?
My first exposure to Sandra Moon, she came to Denver for a Lucha Libre Laughs show. Maybe it was March or April. I had never seen her before. And she impressed me there, which we've talked about Lucha Libre Laughs before. It's sometimes hard to have a good match in that promotion just because of the casual audience. And I thought she looked great here against Ashton Starr. Her attitude is great. Her in-ring work is solid. People love her. Like,
she seems to be growing she seems to be growing a connection with the crowds that she's up against. She's getting better opponents, so good little prospect there, I think.
And then it was good to see two of our Northeast boys in the 6-man scramble at Effie's Brunch. Armani Chaos and Aaron Work were both featured in the 6-man scramble. Or I should say 6-way scramble, because I don't know how everyone in that match identifies. That was fun. It's a 6-man scramble. It is what it is. Dark Sheik defeated Alley Catch and Taya Valkyrie in a 3-way.
It sounds terrible.
It far exceeded my expectations. And Taya Valkyrie actually took a staple to the head. So that was...
It doesn't involve her bumping, so... Did you hear Conan went online and said, because he's very upset that the Thunder Rosa Valkyrie match is off because of Rosa's injury.
Okay. Oh, I didn't even know they were scheduled to have a match
in AAA for Triple Mania.
Okay.
And apparently, according to Conan, now bear in mind this guy has probably like levels of concussions that we don't understand, and he mixes things up all the time. But according to him, Thunder Rosa claimed she hurt her leg and couldn't make the Triple Mania match against Taya Valkyrie, while now it's her back that's keeping her out. And so he actually contacted like AEW and Thunder Rosa. It's like, why would you tell me it was your leg that was fucked up? And apparently, according to him, his side of the story, we haven't heard Thunder Rosa's or anything else. She thought she told him it was her back. Take that for what it's worth, but
I don't know.
There's a lot of like weird information about Thunder Rosa, and now it's not just like one person saying these things. It's like more and more people are coming out about her and how it's working. It's getting very sus. You know what I mean?
That is really interesting, and I don't Don't want to overanalyze, but
I'm not overanalyzing. I'm just kind of saying that part of the story. And it's, as fans and the way wrestling is, we gotta, like, journalism, like the journalists out there, they kind of do the same thing. It's like, okay, here's the information we do have, or at least been told. And in the nature of wrestling, it's very hard to actually get the full story most of the time. So it's up to us as fans to kind of just put pieces together and come up with an opinion or take on our own about that. But I'm getting pretty sus about Thunder Rosa.
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, because we have heard from all over.
Well, here's my thing. Why can't it be both?
That's true. It could be both.
As of May, she had allegedly bad leg injury going on. And she's 30.
I don't remember hearing that, but I believe it.
Yeah, she's in her late 30s. Body's breaking down.
Sure.
It's very possible that she's just badly injured all over.
She could be having her Kenny Omega moment where it's like 19 things that all need rehab.
Yeah. And it just so happened like her back flared up real bad in between, and that's what is the latest. That's my take. That's my take on Thunder Rosa. It's very, very interesting to all that. But okay, so shall we talk about AEW, or you got one more thing?
Real quick, the main event of Effie's Big Gay Brunch was obviously Effie, and his opponent was Max the Impaler. And Max, holy cow, have they gained favor with crowd. I don't know how they've gotten so popular, over the past few months. Crowd was cheering for Max over Effie, who in a GCW crowd in an event that's named after himself. I mean, the crowd was split, and the crowd was cheering for both at times. It was just great to see crowd behind Max, because I think they're doing great things and can really build off what they have going on. So one of my
critiques of Max the Impaler was the in-ring game definitely needs to develop, like the look and character and all that seems to be there, and the crowd connection is definitely growing. Once that ring game continues to improve, the more popular Max will be, and that's a bright future. I've listened to a variety of podcasts, and there's people out there that'll say, why isn't Max the Impaler on AEW winning the world title? They're really good. What are we doing? I go, well, bro, let's pump the brakes here. It's okay to let people develop on the indie scene.
Yes, I'm with you on that in that sense. I am really excited to see how they improve and how they continue to get over with crowds. Effie did win I don't remember exactly what the finish was, but it was a horrible heel move to get the win over Max, because he knew he couldn't beat them clean.
Right. So could be a heel turn in future match.
Maybe a heel turn. Maybe it was just
a moment.
It's my brunch, and I can do whatever the fuck I want, which he did say at some point during the match. And I think for the Puro match too, Puro thought he was going to be able to beat Kid Bandit clean, and Effie came out and was like, "It's my brunch. I say that there are no rules, and Kid Bandit can use whatever weapon she wants." So.
Is that the gender? Is that the gender Kid Bandit goes by?
So I checked Kid Bandit's profile on Twitter, and it says he, she, or they.
Okay, so anything you want.
Yep.
Okay.
Because I do try to be careful, but thank you for calling me out on the pronoun.
Oh, I'm not calling you out.
But I don't want to misgender anyone, so I appreciate the being aware of it. Anyway, Effie's Big Gay Brunch
I wasn't aware of it, so that's why I asked.
2 years in a row, Effie's Big Gay Brunch has been the highlight of All Out Weekend for me, and that's one that I will never skip.
AEW time?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's get this going. Let's see. JTPW. Nothing to talk about, right?
Yeah, I haven't heard a lot of like news or drama coming out of there. Just
nothing at all, right?
The biggest thing is MJF is back, right? That's what everyone is talking about.
Everyone's
after the pay-per-view.
only talking about MJF's return. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Okay, so first question. Well, I'll just ask you questions. You can give me short answers. How's that sound?
Okay.
And then we can get into everything else. Because we mentioned on the last podcast, like the shoot work shit is like not the most interesting. There's some things that you just can't help but talk about in brief. Boy, a lot changed in a couple weeks.
Right?
And things finally blew up, and that's where we are. But okay, Ricky, you went to All Out. Good experience. Thumbs up.
Absolute thumbs up. There's nothing like being a part of an AEW pay-per-view crowd, especially a Chicago pay-per-view crowd, or just a Chicago crowd in general, because that was my second All Out in Chicago, and I was also at the United Center for Punk's debut. There is something really electric about the Chicago crowd. And despite not having like outrageous expectations for this pay-per-view, especially compared to the 2021 All Out, and I think we all knew nothing was going to top it, but that AEW was going to give us very solid work rate pay-per-view. They always have great matches, a few surprises, some good stories.
So follow up. This pay-per-view had 15 matches on it, easily the most of any AEW pay-per-view, and there was already chatter even a few pay-per-views ago that like 11 and 12 was too much, and now we've seen a gradual increase up to the point we're at now. And based on certain match times and results of there being 15 matches, do you feel, even from a live experience perspective, that it's just too much at this point?
Go back and forth on this because we pay a lot of money to go here. So, like, okay, I feel like I got my money's worth. Is it worth it if I'm exhausted, or if there's 2 or 3 matches in the middle of the card that I'm just not into because I'm wrestled out already? I go back and forth. In this particular case, I do think it was too many matches. There are quite a few that I think could have been on Rampage or Dynamite or... Yeah, I mean, it stinks because you have this great roster and you're like, these guys have been doing great work the last 3 months. It's 4 pay-per-views a year, right? So you want to get everybody who's been doing great work that quarter on the pay-per-view, and they deserve a blowout on the pay-per-view. But I mean, does everyone deserve a spot on the pay-per-view? If you bill the Rampage before the pay-per-view and it looks like they're doing that with Full Gear, doing Rampage on Friday and Full Gear's back to a Saturday, November. They're calling the Rampage before Rampage Full Gear.
Right.
So it's kind of like a 2-night pay-per-view, so they can.
So I actually wanted to lead into that because you mentioned that could have been a couple matches on here. I'll just look at like those couple trios matches that were on here, whether it was FTR Wardlow against the Lethal Team, Motor City Machine Guns, and then you had the Miro Darby Sting trios match against House of Black. When you look at that Rampage that you went to the couple days prior, that would have been like phenomenally more interesting as a show and a lead into All Out if that was billed as like Rampage All Out with those couple matches on there, and that would be the focus and given more interest.
It would have been way more interesting than the matches we got, especially considering we saw Ruby and Ortiz versus Sammy and Ty on Friday night and then just saw it again 2 days later. Like, what was that about?
seem very strange. Some interesting choices, to say the least. But I did like Ortiz and Ruby doing the Bull Nakano Aja Kong face paint thing going on.
Oh, Fantastic stuff. Fantastic.
And then Eddie Kingston wins a match later with a Northern Lights bomb. Lots of Joshi references on the show.
There were. And the Eddie Kingston Ishii match might have been my match of the night. I'm not sure.
I think that was fourth for me.
So do you want to talk about how wrong we were about the Acclaimed versus Swerve in Our Glory?
Dude, who could have seen that coming?
We didn't. I knew the Acclaimed were over, and
not to that extent.
Not to that extent. And let me just say, so I love Anthony Bowens and Max Caster individually. They were first signed to AEW. I was like, Tony, what are you doing? These guys aren't a tag team. You don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Well, they're certainly not like good enough to be, in my opinion, not good enough or over enough to be singles wrestlers. But why not both? This is something I do like about AEW is why can't they just be both? You can have a tag team and also wrestle singles every now and again. It's no problem.
We've seen Dax do it all year, right?
Well, Dax Harwood has its own like thing going on where he wants like a Wrestler of the Year case. He wants to be recognized by the Observer, but then he'll go on Twitter and say, fuck Dave Meltzer. It's like, well, you certainly care about his like star ratings a lot, apparently.
Yeah.
But
to continue with the Acclaimed,
do you think AEW should have called an audible on the match?
No, absolutely not. I think calling an audible on a title change is very difficult. Probably, it would have popped the crowd, but I don't. Then going into
Grand Slam,
Arthur Ashe. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't remember the name of it. I think either would have been overhyped or they wouldn't get the same pop. I think it'll be much better if they take the titles in New York.
Yeah, and they got a few weeks. They can now build it up even more. And the match was great.
Right.
So
the match was fantastic.
Now we're salivating for the Acclaim to win.
Exactly.
While before going in, we didn't even think they had a prayer, let alone have a good match, or at least a great match. That was a massive, pleasant surprise and vastly exceeded expectations. The Dark Order Elite match was exactly what we thought it would be.
Holy cow.
Really good.
Man.
Good storytelling with Omega and Page. Great near falls, like the very last split nanosecond type things.
And our Northeast boys, Silver and Reynolds, on a pay-per-view in a high-profile match. And finally, people have been talking about Dark Order and talking about Silver and Reynolds, but not to the degree that they're talking about it after this match.
Yeah.
Silver and Reynolds are really starting to get the record. Like, they are not just great individually, but their tag team moveset and chemistry is really just astounding. Yeah. So I'm so glad that they are getting the attention that they are now.
Yeah, I still disagree with kind of how we got there and what, but it's like with AEW, it's always exactly how we think it's going to be. It's like, okay, even though if we disagree with how we got here or certain matches being there, the guys always perform up to a standard that we expect. Sometimes there's some misses here or there, like anything else. It's like, okay, so the guy only went off for 15 instead of 30 points in a game.
Sure.
Like, okay, maybe not their best, but they did deliver. So those were the main matches: Elite Dark Order, Kingston Ishii, Acclaimed Swerve, and Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee. And then I really, really enjoyed the main event with all the heat it had in the building, despite being super late in the show. We will get to Moxley and Punk. Just to go through the rest of the show really here. So we got the 0 hour, Hook Angelo Parker, fine, 4 minutes. Pat Kip Sabian, fine, 10 minutes. Kind of expected a little bit more out of Kip Sabian. I thought it was like okay. He decided it felt like a WWE type match, which, slow paced, not great, not exciting, but solid. Does that make sense?
It was solid. I think I was underwhelmed with the amount of time Kip has been out of action and building up this new character. We know what he's capable of in the ring. Right. I think he is underrated, and I expected more.
Yeah, but more matches like this, you understand kind of why he's in the position he's in and not highlighted more. But anyways, digress. Let's see. We talked about FTR, Wardlow beating the Lethal Team, Motor City Machine Guns. Fine. Same thing with the Darby Allin match. Fine. Why that was the semi-main, I don't know.
I was so confused by that placement on the card.
Yeah, very weird. There were some weird things placement wise. Christian Cage is injured with his elbow. He'll be back. He'll be out a while. They did an angle with him with Luchasaurus being a heel again, even though I guess it was a swerve kind of situation. I like the angle well enough.
I called it. Yeah. I said that match was not going to be about Christian and Jack. It was going to be about Luchasaurus.
I think they've also pivoted towards something, but Jungle Boy is now like Jungle Boy Jack Perry. He's they're changing him up. They're making him more adult. Should he have won? Maybe. I think the story's going to continue. They got to pivot there. That was like the least concern I had over the show. The thing that like baffled me the most was the Powerhouse Hobbs Ricky Starks match. Because it was built up pretty well. It was one of the more hype things on the show, at least from like a match build perspective. And it went like 5 minutes and Hobbs just hits the spine buster and wins. Very confusing over what's going to happen after this now. Because that was my real only head scratcher of the night.
I wasn't surprised that they gave Hobbs the win.
Yeah, that's not my question.
The manner of the win was slightly puzzling, especially when you hear reports that this match and the Jade Athena match both had more time allotted to them, and the performers chose not to use all of their time.
Yeah, very strange. Well, I'm glad the Cargill Athena match went down the way it did. Too, actually. That's one I've seen, at least from like Twitter or a analyst perspective, that the match wasn't all that great. And I'm like, I don't know, as a fan, I got exactly what I wanted and expected. Like, I personally don't want to see a Jade Cargill match go 10 plus minutes. I'd rather see what I got, which was Athena comes out heavy hitting hard. They both had unique, cool entrances. Jade's got the She-Hulk thing going on. Athena had the cool contacts and shit in. They hit hard. They hit hard. They hit fast. Athena's doing all her best stuff to Jade, and Jade got to show off her power moves, and it led up all to hitting the one pump kick and hit her with the big move, and it was over. And it was kind of like what Athena losing, I think, is fine because Jade is awesome, and she's still developing. She's 37-0. It's like, I don't personally see a reason why to take it off her other than just to do it, and that's not a good enough reason for me.
Better hold it forever, and then
I went 2 out of 3 recommendation on that match. I was hyped for it. I came in, I'm just like, let's go, and then it was finished. I'm like, all right, let's move on. They didn't waste any time. It was just all action.
You can hold that belt forever, then win the AW World Women's Championship. Merge the belts, and then have women's tag titles.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an idea. Yeah, what if the TBS title is literally just the Jade belt? That's just how it worked out. That's what I'm saying.
No one else ever gets it. That's it. The end.
That'd be kind of that. Actually, I'm kind of
that
into
bitch.
That. I'm kind of into that. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and the one that finally beats her, whomever it may be, we'll never know. I mean, there's definitely options out there. You got Jamie Hayter, you got Statlander whenever she returns. You could do Athena again. That's okay. Like Sheeta or Riho. Like, the roster is deep enough where you can do more things with Jade Cargill. We've been over that. Let's see. The other women match, I really enjoyed too. It was like a good mess in a weird way. Toni Storm wins as we kind of expected. Jamie Hayter, very over with Chicago. This is another match where there was a lot of like analysts and fans just going, they should have called an audible. I'm like, no.
No.
Jamie Hayter has like no momentum. She has been built up this way. While Toni Storm has, more or less.
Right. And they are planting the seeds of dissension between Jamie and Britt, finally. We saw that backstage thing the next Dynamite where Britt didn't even want to talk about it, or Jamie didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But one thing that I trust from AEW is that Tony knows what the fans want. And if he didn't know what to expect from reactions for this pay-per-view as far as the Acclaimed and Jamie, he will make adjustments if he has to. And I trust him to either listen to the fans and make something happen, or make something happen in a way that we would never expect, and we like it even more.
Right. And then coming up on Dynamite, we're getting Baker teaming with Deeb against Storm and Sheeta. So they're keeping these people relevant in these tags and switching people out. I like this.
I also had a question as to why Deeb wasn't the one in the four-way over Sheeta. Deeb won that feud. Sheeta's a former champ, so they just put her in, but...
Well, she's also a current Wave champ, and she just won a feud on Dark against Emi Sakura, while Deeb has been mostly off. She's been mostly absent since the Mercedes Martinez match. But
fair.
She's back on Dark. She beat Madison Rain in quick fashion on Rampage, and she's back in the fold, so let's go. I'm okay with this. I didn't like the Jericho Danielson match. I thought it was slow and boring, and Jericho was fixing his pants the whole time.
I mean, obviously, you know how I feel about Jericho, but especially its placement on the card and the time that they took, it pulled me out of it. I think it pulled a lot of the crowd out of it. We realized we still had 2 matches after that, so I think a lot of people took bathroom and beer breaks during what should have been a really high profile. I mean, it's Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson. Those are not people you would normally think you would leave an arena for, but
you know what was unlucky?
It was slow.
Both women's matches came after the massive tag title matches.
No, I was thinking that too. And on paper, we're in the right place on the card.
I think the women's 4-way was. You couldn't predict. I mean, you could predict that the trios title match was going to go off, I think. But
Jade is so over that I didn't, and it was such a short match.
Yeah, it was fine.
I think it was okay.
Okay, so let's get to the nitty gritty here, because this is going to be the rest of the discussion.
Sure.
Let's see. On Rampage, Claudio Castagnoli defeated Dax Harwood, 20 minutes. Good match.
Match.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into this story. Casino ladder match. Bunch of cool lucha shit. Awesome. Just for, I guess, hired Stokely Hathaway and his ragtag group of rambunctious fools. Took the chip and gave it to coming out to Rolling Stones. We know it's MJF now. Revealed later, but gives the chip to him. I'm not getting the feeling that Stokely is with MJF. It sure seems like a paid-off deal, which MJF is known to do in the past.
Yeah, I haven't decided where they're going with that story, but when I was talking about the Joker for the ladder match with my friends before the pay-per-view, I knew all the talk was that it was going to be MJF. Then I thought about it and I was like, why would MJF come back after 3 months saying he deserves to be in a title position? He's he even said it on Rampage on Friday. He's a work smarter, not harder guy, right? Why would he enter a ladder match where he would have to take bumps and take risks and not be guaranteed title spot, right? I was like, maybe it won't be MJF and he'll show up later in the show. Instead, they swerved us, like you said. He didn't enter. Well, he entered the match, He didn't do any of that junk. It was literally handed to him. I think this was done very well.
See, because he was in the match, it made sense, right? Because I will always point to that one Money in the Bank where Brock Lesnar wasn't even in the match, and he just comes out and takes the briefcase and wins.
But yeah.
Like, I was in
bullshit.
the arena for that.
He wasn't even in the match.
Right, right. In this case, MJF is in disguise, even though he did all his mannerisms. It's like, oh, okay, all right.
Mm.
I thought they were going to save it for Dynamite, the big reveal. But at the end of the night, after Punk beats Moxley in a very heated, good main event, MJF comes out, no mic. He just signals for the title, big pop from the crowd. Crowd chanting MJF over Punk, which I'm sure CM Punk, as an adult, handled that very well.
Yes, because he is so mature and professional.
Right, yeah. But Chicago, like, everyone's wanted MJF to return with everything, despite kind of how everything went down at Double or Nothing. And the irony of all ironies is circumstances overshadow what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy with the bullshit he was pulling, but who knows? This is all really feeling like work from the begin with the MJF thing. So CM Punk beats Moxley. In the match, he took a tope and hurt his elbow, and he was like, in real time, me and the buddies in Discord and everything watching were like, he hurt his elbow. He's hurt again, isn't he? And sure enough, comes out like later in the week that he would have to vacate the title again for the second time with another body injury. So, I'm not saying CM Punk is washed as a wrestler, because he clearly isn't based on this first year, but his body can't handle this anymore. 2 straight injuries like this, different body parts, not the same thing. His body's broken down.
I mean, he was of game for 7 years. If you don't, I mean, I'm sure he was working out, and I'm sure, he was in the gym, and I know he did a couple MMA matches here. But if you're not taking bumps regularly in the ring, if you're not getting your reps, I feel like, I mean, I'm not an athlete and I'm not a wrestler, obviously, but I feel like it's completely different. Oh,
right. So there was a kerfuffle, a fracas backstage after CM Punk
melee.
A melee. We'll get to the scrum thing in a second because there's a whole topic. But the point is, CM Punk said some shit. The Bucks and Omega, with Daniels of head of talent relations and the lawyer, chief legal officer,
Mega Perek.
Yeah. CM Punk and the Elite get into a brawl, a brouhaha. And Tony Khan has to then suspend them all. Just, you're all done till we figure this out. Strips CM Punk of the title. Strips the trios titles. That brings us to Dynamite, where we got Death Triangle versus the Best Friends, because they're the only 2 teams like left that aren't either injured or just not in the country, right?
Sure.
Death Triangle wins. Good match. I really enjoyed that. No problem with this decision. I liked it because otherwise I would have expected the Dark Order to get back into that mix. But
said Reynolds was injured.
Reynolds has an injured something. We got Toni Storm against Penelope Ford. Solid little women's match. Most of it was in commercial. Wardlow squashes Tony Nese. And then Wardlow cuts the promo. I've heard on the internet you say I'm not doing much or whatever. It's like, well, we just saw you do a minute squash again. When are we going to actually do something with you? Hopefully that's a sign, but with Wardlow, I need to be proven differently at this point. And then we have the Tournament of Champions announced, which is all former champions in AEW. Why Miro isn't in it is interesting, but it was... What?
Put the number of title reigns.
Oh, that was the important part?
Oh, I think that's how they... And they counted Jericho, Danielson, and Moxley's prior world championship reigns not in AEW. So,
right, I saw that.
Right. So I think that's why...
Why like Sammy Guevara and Darby was picked over Miro?
Yes.
Okay.
The number of reigns.
Okay. So we got tonight was Danielson Page, excellent match. I personally didn't like Danielson winning with a roll up. I'm sick of these things. I don't know how many times week over week I have to talk about this. Can we just have someone win? Why? Anyways.
Yeah.
But the match was 3 out of 3. Like, I didn't question it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Garcia got a big win over Yuta.
Ooh.
Pure match. Good stuff again. He won very clean. Buffalo went nuts. And then he shook Danielson's hand. Jericho, very upset with this. I love this story going on. This is good. And we're going to get a rematch of Danielson against Jericho. And then the other one we got, let's see, on Rampage, Guevara beat Darby Allin. So we're getting Guevara against Moxley. And we had the Moxley MJF kind of restarting the situation. Moxley cuts an impassioned promo. MJF is the actual heel. His shtick was only so long. Very good. To me, it looks like we're on a collision course for either Moxley Danielson again, and the winner will face MJF at the end of it all. And I guess we'll see what happens. I'm kind of feeling MJF should win at this point.
So I think will be Danielson Moxley in New York. I think Danielson wins. Moxley deserves his vacation. This is twice now where he's had scheduled time off and he's had to come back and fix things because he is the motherfucking ace of AEW. And I am really mad that crowd on Wednesday didn't start chanting ace, 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 but hopefully that comes with time. No, so I want him to get his break, get his time off. I think Danielson, I mean, he's never a question in ring and he's still a draw. So I want him to take the title. I want MJF to get it at some point and have a nice long reign, at least a year. I want
don't know if it should be that long.
I want it to be at least a year, and I want MJF to be holding the title around the time that his contract is supposedly up in 2024.
Oh, that's interesting.
So he's going to threaten to take it with him.
He has this chip for ages, and then he cashes. He decides to hold this until. Well, I don't know. Because so here's the.
Let me finish my. I want him to have the time. He can cash in the chip whenever. I don't really care. I want him to hold the belt for a long ass time. Threaten to leave with it. And then right in the nick of time, one of the 4-pillar baby faces is going to come in, take the title from him, save AEW from MJF. I'm thinking Darby, but it could be a babyface Sammy. It could be Jungle Boy. Doesn't really matter to me. It has to be one of the younger pillar guys, though, too. It could even be Yuta or Garcia at this point. Don't care.
It's a very stacked upper mid card of young talent, yeah.
Leaving AEW from MJF, and then at that point, MJF will need to avenge his pride, and he'll re-sign with AEW.
So I don't hate this idea. I do kind of like MJF having this title around his contract expiration because that's a big part of his story. I was thinking Danielson or Moxley wins this thing. They hold it for a month. MJF takes it from them. And that goes into a longer story with those guys. Okay. And eventually MJF will lose it, and he can get it back via more nefarious means just around his contract expert. I was kind of on that same page with you, but him holding it for like a year and a half is an interesting scenario that can develop.
I think title reigns are more interesting with nefarious heels, long title reigns. There's just so much more you can do because every babyface is going to look like a plucky underdog against this evil guy.
Sure. The other thing is, and I brought this up a number of times, where if you have a wrestler for X amount of time, you really got to utilize them on their contract because you don't know if they're going to resign. Much like, sports athletes. You try to get the best out of them while you have them. And if you're trying to, and this is a Tony Khan thing, especially with what we just saw happen with Red Dragon, where now Fish is out and O'Reilly's out with a neck injury for a long time. We never got like the Bucks versus Red Dragon singles. We never got Red Dragon against a lot of these teams because he was so obsessed with a long-term story that even though Fish's contract was only this amount of time, we never got like a lot of aspects to them as a team. Like we've totally missed out on Red Dragon Elite, right? Altogether. And Cole's still injured. So with MJF, we don't know if he's going to resign. And that's a big part of his story.
I think he has. I think he has.
But we don't know that. Same thing with like Takeshita is on excursion for a year and all he's done is lose. He's had awesome matches, don't get me wrong, but the TNT title feud with Wardlow was like right there kind of situation. A Punk with all his nonsense, I sure feel like we got a lot out of him in a year. Right? Like we utilized his contract at least for the first year. Who knows what's going to happen now after this, but a damn good run in the first year that could end badly. But that's an example of like utilizing a guy to get as much as possible while there's a good chunk of this roster that might not re-sign that are big pieces. And if we're just wasting all this time on, here's the example I'm going with though. It's great that you're doing long-term stories. What about the in-between? Why are so many of these guys sitting on the sidelines just doing cool shit in between it all, right? Like, okay, you want to wait off on Red Dragon Elite all this time to build up for okay, that's all well and good. Why didn't we get more Red Dragon matches in the first place? What was the holdup there? Why are we seeing the Trustbusters on Rampage when you could have FTR doing a cool tag match against, I don't know, Private Party? We're not. I really get the feeling we're not utilizing our talent enough in the in between of all these stories. Is kind of what I'm driving at, and it's been really lacking over since I would say spring actually. Or maybe it's more noticeable now because Rampage has gotten like so not great.
Rampage hasn't been great. And I can't disagree with you. Tony's built up this roster and this is consequence of being bloated and not taking opportunities while you have them.
Malachi Black, great example. I know he was dealing with like a big bad back injury, but even prior to that, Miro, another one. I know he shot a movie and his knee was injured, but it sure seems like we've only gotten this one thing in this long period of time. And to me, that's not good enough. Like Jamie Hayter's another example. It's like great that she's part of Britt Baker, but let's get cracking on this story with her and Baker, or why isn't Hayter doing, I don't know. I'm repeating myself at this point. So, all right. CM Punk wins the title. This will be our last thing. Saved it for last. CM Punk wins this title, injures himself, and the events go as follow. Okay? Without even asked a single question, CM Punk is eating a muffin. He's got blood on his face. He looks like a madman, a lunatic. A raving mad doctor, if you will. Tony Khan's next to him. We know that there's been rambunctious butting heads backstage, especially focused around CM Punk. CM Punk then goes off about Colt Cabana. He goes off burying the EVPs, calling them children, can't manage a target. They've done nothing in the business. He calls Hangman Page out by name, saying he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's insulting people without taking his particular advice, even though if you listen to the Hangman Page thing, from when he was on at that like Comic-Con or whichever it was. He more or less self-deprecated himself, saying his personality is to learn from his mistakes. And he feels like everyone's different. Everyone learns differently. And so CM Punk buries him, buries the company, buries your EVPs, buries the media in front of him. I'll get to the media in a second. And Tony Khan, being a diplomat, essentially, he's just sitting there. And he's like, okay. He's just kind of nodding along. He's like, all right. You can't like pull him because then that will upset your top player, right? One of your top guys. You can't really like pull him from those things. What you can do, though, is interrupt him and go, whoa, hold on. Let's get back on track. And he's like, TK is still learning himself in a lot of aspects. And this was a big learning experience for him. So Punk's burying everybody. At the media, you got we have visual representation of this now. So now it's not just we hear something on the radio the next day of something has happened, right? Elite go and confront him backstage. Events occur. We get the kerfuffle, the brouhaha, the fracas. I learned that word recently, fracas.
It's been all over the place.
Yeah. It's like fracas.
It's like during the last major election, the word that I heard most often was foment. I was like, that is such a great word. And now fracas is foment.
Define foment. I didn't even spell it right. It's E-N-T. Okay.
Foment. It's
instigate
like
or stir up.
Yeah.
Undesirable or violent sentiment of course of action. Oh my God, CM Punk absolutely did a foment.
But I wasn't even relating that word necessarily to this situation. I was just saying how like one like major news event gets like one word stuck in your brain.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was foment for that, and for this one, it's fracas.
Yeah, just
yeah.
The so. There was a lot of words from both sides where it's like the Elite busted in the door. They instigated everything. CM Punk it's kind of been, after now so many days, CM Punk threw the first punch. Okay. My interpretation of events is if you're confronting a guy and you have the intent to like commit something, you're not bringing in the head of talent relations and you're not bringing in the chief legal officer. Okay? You're not bringing in witnesses of HR, essentially. What you're doing is, this is my interpretation, because and MJF was apparently a witness to this all as well. To me, it was, especially with the last couple months of people getting all these promotions and trying to get communication together. The Elite heard this. They're tired of hearing this. They need to confront this man and talk it out. So, sure seems a lot of these signs are pointing to they got HR involved as they're supposed to. We're going to go talk to this man and hash it out. And CM Punk, being the paranoid lunatic that he sure comes across as, and his reputation, I don't doubt, and a lot of this really interprets as premeditated with CM Punk, that he knew he was injured, he knew there's issues, and he's tired of all these people. Like, he assumes that this is a locker room where everyone's behind their backs, right? He assumes that whether it's dirt sheets or actual journalists are getting leaked info and talking about Colt Cabana. And it really got under his skin, even though there's no evidence of it. And you even have people like Meltzer, Wade Keller, PW Insider, all denying this. They're like, no, we've got none of this. And it's everybody, you, me. We all just assume CM Punk comes in and Colt loses, like, gets downgraded away from him. Like, it's just fans in general. So again, that's another like sign of a madman who's caught up in his own paranoia. right? So in his mind and his experiences, he's probably thinking, I'm going to say all this shit, and if they come and find me, which he even says in...
Come and find... Yeah, if you have a problem,
come and find
where my locker room is. Come and find me, yeah.
So then they go in, and what happened? He thinks they're in for a fight, so he gets them before they can get him. So that's when you're recounting events from CM Punk saying they felt threatened. Well, of course they felt threatened. They instigated it. The what was it? The foment.
Yeah.
The fomented
the situation.
He fomented the situation. So that makes sense why, in his mind, they started it, even though he instigated it.
His ego, just seems to me that he is a neurotic, narcissistic egomaniac. Like, I don't even know how else to... He just comes off so poorly. Even when you hear stories, supposedly from both sides, just does not. He just does not sound like a normal human. Right.
And if we go by reputation, like, I'm listening to Conan, I'm listening to all these other people that like know the Bucks and Omega personally. They're like the least confrontational people in the world, like in the wrestling industry.
Agreed. That's what it sounds like. Right.
So if they're going, like, I can't even picture the Young Bucks like starting a fight.
No, absolutely not. Like, I can't. No,
could it happen? Sure, anyone's capable of anything, but all signs and evidence, and even accounts of the events in front of us, nothing to me supports the Punk case, right? And I think the more information comes out, the investigation that's underway, that I believe that the parties involved, I think the right decision will be made. Now, wrestlers are putting out feelers to other companies. That's just business. I understand that. We got situations now where we will have possible firings. I gotta say, if the Elite, like, it's one thing for the Elite to retire in AEW. I think it's a totally different animal if the Elite leave AEW. And to me, as a fan, when I look at a possible situation of that occurring, I think that detrimentally hurts the brand possibilities of AEW.
The Elite are literally the identity of AEW.
Right. You would lose your identity, and if they're retiring, I don't think that's losing it. That's just part of nature. While if they leave of their own accord or they can't come to an agreement, like Cody, that was, I think, totally different. He's a special case, right? He felt like an enigma to the entire brand and promotion, even from the start. He was his own like guy. While Bucks and Omega and company, I'll even throw like SCU in there, kind of as their as part, like, sure. And the best friends, like, these are the representatives of AEW, and I don't know, it, like, all elite wrestling. Right? Exactly. Elite. That is your identity. And if you lose your identity through circumstances like this, I think that hurts it a lot.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with that because that's logical conclusion.
Now, CM Punk, this is very tricky because he is a top branded star. He's had a great first year. He's clearly like out of his mind right now. You have to suspend this guy, which they did. Fire him? I don't know the answer to that. And I'm glad I'm not in the position to make that decision.
Is it that tricky though?
I think it is. I really think it is.
I mean, I can understand from business side of it, but I don't. Obviously, depending on how this investigation goes, I don't think keeping Punk around is worth headache. Don't.
I think it's something that needs to be evaluated at a much later date. You have this investigation. The suspensions are already laid out. Punk's injured, which is really looking like a blessing in disguise. So he's got to go away for like 8 months anyways.
Sure.
So maybe in that time, cooler heads can prevail. You can make that decision when he's about to come back, whether you truly need or want him then. And by that time, enough time has passed where I think you've already now gone in many different possible directions with your roster, with your show, that there can't... And let's not forget, if Punk is this amazing draw at this point a year later, the way this pay-per-view was built up and handled, like, these aren't like terrible numbers that I'm seeing in these early, like 140,000-ish. But that's certainly below, I think, the expectations for an all-out at this point in time. Agreed. So with a Punk main event in Chicago and this much heat, like the tickets are still selling well. That's not what I'm driving at here.
They still did $1 million gate.
Yeah. The ratings are very steady, but they're not rising. Now we are at 3 weeks in a row over 1 million. We're in the mid-point threes. All good. I'm curious to see what happens now after this. With this sort of reset and Black Cloud gone, how much does Punk like truly matter at this point in time after a year of his good run? There's something that needs to like reset the show and get it hot again. I think MJF is right now more valuable in this term that we're in. So for him challenging for the title and have the chip, I think the story was told well. I don't think you do that like maybe ever again in that situation with the ladder match. With Punk, 8 months from now, I think you got to make a decision then, not now. Depending on, of course, I think a lot depends on him. Maybe him being maybe he's so stubborn about all this and he thinks he's right. He thinks this and that about the Elite. I'll never work with these guys. I mean, shit, in the interview, he's like, I work with children. I only work with pricks. Like, a lot has changed in a year from he can't wait to work all this young talent to the point where he doesn't put anyone over and he doesn't want to work with any of these guys. Allegedly, according to him. Even though it's by words. I don't know what's kayfabe and what's real, because he tends to do that. Like, air real grievances into promos. Right?
Yeah. I mean, the same way Eddie Kingston does, though, too, right? I mean, I don't think anything he ever says to a camera is not based in truth.
Yeah. And I do like how this was handled. This was handled very professionally by Tony Khan. He didn't mention anyone by name. He just said, due to events on Sunday, I have to strip these titles.
I don't even think he said due to events. I think he just said these titles are vacant.
No, I believe he said due to events.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah. Due to the events on Sunday, these titles are vacated. Here's where we're going. Exciting few weeks ahead, which they will be.
Absolutely.
Which they will be. And because there's like legal action involved and there has to be an investigation, you can't really like do angles with this and bring Punk out on TV the next night. That is not how this works. This isn't like 2008 TNA with Russo and Disco Inferno booking shit where it's now all trying to bring that to light, and there's never any evidence that actually makes money in the first place. In fact, it actually turns off viewers. And coming off the pay-per-view with all these questions, there wasn't like this significant increase of viewers due to these real-life events, which to me interprets as Twitter isn't real, yet again. Right? Some people just want to watch their fucking wrestling, and they're probably like super confused on what happened. And it's like, hey, events on Sunday. These titles are vacated. Let's start over. Let's
move on.
Try to put this behind us. And we got MJF doing like CM Punk mannerisms at the front and everything, so it's not like totally ignored. It's going to be an interesting couple months ahead as we go to Full Gear. Got Grand Slam and Full Gear and a bunch of other things happening.
Can't wait. Do you have plans to get tickets to Full Gear?
In New Jersey? No, I'm not doing that.
No? Okay.
I'm busy trying to buy a house, and that's like really lining up with when I hope to have this done.
That makes sense. I'm considering it just based on the fact that, like I said, it is a Friday and a Saturday, and so travel would be a lot easier than a Sunday pay-per-view. I wouldn't have to take any time off work, probably, and I could stay at like an uncle's house or something and not have to pay for a hotel. So I'm considering it. I haven't made a decision yet. Well, I have to, think about things, but
and that's where we stand. I guess that's AEW. It's going to be a tumultuous future ahead.
Can't wait to see what they do.
All right, Ricky, that does it for us. See you next time.
All right. Yeah.
All right, everybody, we are here. It's day 14 of the 5-star Grand Prix. Red Leaf Retrocast, JD here to take you back to Korakuen Hall, an attendance of 781. Let's break this sucker down. So, there was a lot of weird competition over this weekend from Stardom at Korakuen. There was the JTO show. That took a couple talents away there. New Japan. The list goes on in terms of the strange competition taking place at Korakuen in and around Tokyo on a non-holiday weekend, and Stardom ran on a Monday. So certain things against it. However, the 781 is definitely down from their past two Korakuens at... for the 5-star, they both sold out, 1,500. And down from the Yokohama Budokan, kind of definitely expected, for sure. However, despite all that, the company is definitely on the hotter side. And I really think you would have liked to see at least them get about 900 to 1,000 on a day like this. It is still the 5-star. They did have a good main event with Mayu Iwatani and Suzu Suzuki, whom, by the way, Suzu is, this is her second main event at Korakuen, and Mayu's fourth main event of the 5-star, by far the most. So they're weirdly heating her up, and yet you don't really notice it with how they're running these cards. It almost feels like, unless you're directly paying attention to Stardom and perhaps how they're going to run these main events, it's almost like a crapshoot over what it's actually going to be in the main event. It's some of these days you just don't know until you kind of start watching the show and everything's released on Stardom World. So, yep. A little down. You would like to see a little higher considering, but honestly, the card, while I didn't hate the show by any means, I didn't think it was bad. I thought a lot of the matches they just didn't quite hit at a high level. It seems there was always something more or less kind of working against it. Nothing really peaked too high other than one match, and I'll get to that once I get to the recommendations here, spoiler free. There were just various matchups that, whether it was the styles or low energy, coming off the high of the pay-per-view over the night before kind of situation, it was definitely a weird feeling through Korakuen. So a little scheduling mishap there maybe. But if we look at the attendance from, say, last year, on a day 14-esque area at Korakuen. So this is their third Korakuen of the tournament. Last year, the third Korakuen was, let's see here. It was on day 13, and they got 363. So if you want to compare year over year, it is still double, which is in line with the with the trend that we're seeing, with most of these attendances in line being double. But on day 15, they got 632, and in that sense, you'd like to see a little higher increase. But we're definitely doing more tournament days this time around, which I like this format. I love this format that they're running, where it's just consecutive weekends. We don't really get anything during the week. It really feels like it's easier on the wrestlers, where they get to take the week off, maybe travel and whatnot. It's much easier to keep up with as a fan, and you still, in the way they have the wrestlers kind of positioned out in most of these cards are only the 5-star matches. You definitely have a good feel for how they're running the points and who's getting what, who's on a streak, who's on a losing streak kind of situation. So I do like a lot of aspects like that. It's definitely something for me that was missing in the G1. I kind of hope they stick to this format going forward. I kind of like that. The obviously, you could do less days if you have less people in the 5-star. I don't see a reason why you would hold back if the talent's there and you don't have a lot of injuries. And these shows are drawing well relatively, and I think they could do more in time with more good shows like this. Okay, spoiler-free recommendations. I have no matches that hit the full 3, but I did have a couple that hit the 2 out of 3. And I will recommend them. I think if you look at the matchups, Mayu Iwatani Suzuki, absolutely recommend that. That hit a 2 out of 3. I'll get into why a little later, of course. And then the other one is one of my favorite matches of the tournament. Not from the why it like peaked high, but just the way it was executed and what they were going for and how they pulled it off. It's Ami Sourei and Mina Shirakawa. Motivated Mina and the bomb-throwing Ami Sourei, they came out with a battle plan, and they got a 2 out of 3 out of me in the end. Now, I'm not saying it's like a 4-star match or anything, but I am saying that you should go out of your way to check this out, and don't have it on in the background. You just kind of look over every now and again. It's definitely a match worth paying attention to. And then I have a couple other, like 1 out of 3. Okay, so spoiler recommendations. As my computer just like totally froze up there. That was weird. I gotta mark that down at the 7-minute mark here. So let's get into the show. Spoilers coming. I got the whole card up here. And we might do a little quicker this time around, because besides, like I said, the matches didn't really peak all that high. They left a lot on the table. It was a weird situation in the scheduling. It definitely felt weird. But anyways, Oedo Tai, Death and Rena defeat Queen's Quest, Hina and Lady C, 6 minutes. You know the drill there. Not much to talk about. And then we start off with Natsupoi Hanan. Natsupoi beats Hanan, 6 minutes, 8 seconds. Hanan beats up the tour. I gave it a 1 out of 3. I thought Natsupoi molded well with Hanan. Hanan coming off a fantastic showing in the Artist Belt match at Yokohama Budokan. And Natsupoi on a sneaky little run, like I keep saying. It's kind of her breakout year, leveling up in her career. And she's developing some killer moves here and there, and my favorite being the up spin kick that she has. Sometimes the person's on their knees, and she'll just simply spin kick, and the leg will go up. So it's almost like an uppercut with the foot. Or she'll be on her knee and spin it around and do the up kick, like a Tekken move or Street Fighter move. And there's still some ways she could improve this move, because sometimes it may not hit all that well because she's kicking from behind herself. And I always recommend do it the old AJW way. A lot of wrestlers do it with like the spinning back fist or the spinning heel kicks. If you miss the first time or you feel like it didn't connect the way you wanted to, then you just do it again until it hits right. You know, usually you could tell from like a crowd reaction or whatnot. I thought this one hit very well, at least from the camera's perspective, and she kind of buries her and puts her away. Yep, like I said, 1 out of 3. I really like this Natsupoi tournament. And I like her summer and what she's been able to do. And she's had a killer tournament and killer weekend as well. And then we get to my favorite match of the night, and it was it the longest match? No, it was 10 seconds shorter than the main event. But that just shows what they did really roped me in. It's Mina Shirakawa, Ami Sourei, 2 out of 3 rec. Mina Shirakawa coming in on 4 points, and Ami Sourei coming on that hot 10 points, kind of competing at the top of the block. And they did a number of things that it's like the definition of work, right? Mina Shirakawa came in with a game plan. It was very similar to the game plan with Julia, except instead of trying to do a count-out victory and work the legs, Mina Shirakawa was trying to chop down the tree. And the way she was able to do that was to drop kick the knee, go after a little submission game. She went back to the old Mina, but she still is incorporating the striking. And that was a good story they told in the match. While Ami Sourei, she has a history of knee injuries, particularly the one Mina Shirakawa was aiming for. She was trying to throw the bombs, and eventually got to like a Mina survival instinct of just, I have to go after this leg or I'm going to lose my life situation. The end of it is she finally chops the tree down, gets her in a figure 4, and it really felt like they were on the cusp of the time limit draw, but really there was, 4 or 5 minutes left. And I'm looking at this, and the selling in this match in general was very good, with how Ami was hitting her lariats and Mina was just taking it like it's the biggest beating of her life. And then when they finally get to this figure 4 spot, Ami is just agonizing in pain. She is just freaking out. She's holding the leg. She's jerking and jiving. And then Mina is adding extra pressure where it should be, and she's selling it like she's somehow channeling more energy into it. And the ref finally, I believe it's a ref stoppage, and he just calls for the bell. It's like, dude, there's 4 minutes left. You're not gonna make it. Excellent match, excellent ending, excellently executed. Yes, I'm gonna say it. Mina Shirakawa is wearing that pink. Let's get some black in there, and we got Bret Hart here. Let's go. Mina Shirakawa is Bret Hart. I said it. We'll come up with something wacky for Ami Sourei. Enough. But right now, she's playing like Joe Thornton, blowing out her knees in the playoffs, and she should have no-sold it. Finished that time on the ice. And then in the mid-card here, it's double Saki action. What could be the most nothing match of the entire tournament. And this was a big fear I had, and it's really been exposed. I said it at the start of it all and the preview of the 5-star that All Cap Saki could be the worst performer in this tournament because she is not a big singles match player. She just doesn't have it in her. Her offense is a big boot. Her finisher is this boring suplex. And I guess she has a double knee attack. It's like if Risa Serra was lazy. Which, of course, we did see that for a little while in certain matches and instances, but that's Saki. I mean, she's got a good look, good little personality. She's got charisma. She's got, the look down for sure. And then you got Saki Kashima, Oedo Tai, and when you got someone that isn't really selling the goblins outside, trying to beat them up, you have Ruaka right in front of the ref doing nonsense. You have Tora limping around on the outside, which she looks terrible. No wonder she hasn't re-debuted yet from injury. She's still limping, and it looks like she's gained weight too. So I don't know what's going on with Natsuko Tora. And watch her now come back next week or something. But I thought she looked terrible on the outside. This was not a good match. It's definitely a worst match of the tournament contender. And I can't recommend this one. Saki wins. All caps won. Then we move on to Saya Ida Hazuki. I hated this finish. Hazuki is officially on losing streak, and it's very clear that they're just trying to get her to lose points, and the Saya Iida finish on Momo Watanabe was good. It was a good upset, blunder from the heel situation, and in this case, they work 7 minutes, 48 seconds, and Hazuki hits like 2 of her big moves, and then she kind of stops and thinks about it, and then she goes to the sheer drop brainbuster, and Iida just gets out of it, puts her in a little bridge pin. Good near fall, to be fair, and then she just does it a second time and pins her, and I'm like, I just really rolled my eyes at it. Did not like this finish at all. I would have liked to see the thing about Saya Iida matches is, yes, she can chop, she has muscles, but when it comes to executing something like above her pay grade, it never goes anywhere higher than her position on the card, which is this lower end person that happens to have a flash pin move. And this match really didn't convince me that Iida had any shot, and yet she just slaps on this move twice in a row, and Hazuki... to me, it made Hazuki look like a chump on a losing streak, and that really didn't go well with me. What did go well was this Utami Mai Sakurai match that followed. Utami wins. She moves up to 10 points. 8 points, Mai Sakurai. There you go. 4 minutes, 22 seconds. Mai Sakurai gives Utami a rose, which was fantastic. Utami sells it well, and she ends up, like, Mai gets the jump on her, and then it's quickly turned around, and Utami just beats her ass and pins her, and I saw a GIF online. I must have, like, turned off the video early, or it came from somewhere else, but someone's, like, on the apron on the outside, and Utami grabs the rose that she was gifted by Mai Sakurai and just swats him in the face. So that was good. Big points there. Shuri Momokogo. Shuri wins. I believe she taps her out. 6 minutes, 31 seconds. Nothing to really report there. Momogogo. Cage match says 0 points. That is absolutely incorrect. She has a full 2. But Shuri wins. She's at 10 points. She's still in this big, I think it's the B block, that's just a logjam of people with like 10 and 8 points. Risa Sera defeats Azumi in 5:45. I would have liked to see this go a little longer, because with the Azumi sprint style, yes, she has her six sequence of events, as I call it, and that's what really bugs me about her. With the Utami match, I liked how different that was, where especially the finish with that Canadian Destroyer into the Azumi Sushi. This one, I thought they worked well within the time limit. They utilized that well enough. There was just really a lot missing to take it up to something worth your time. When Azumi's going for the flash pins, and then Risa Sera just gets her in the power move and gets her, and I believe Risa Sera ends up rolling her up, and then she kind of taunts her and pats her on the head and stuff and whatever. So, this was fine. It's just a short little 5-minute match. Tam Nakano defeats Unagi Sayaka. Unagi stuck at 2 points. She's way down there at the bottom. 10 minutes, 32 seconds. Tam Nakano moves up to 10 points. And you know what? I gotta pull up the Stardom wiki with Stardom 5-star Grand Prix 2022. Let me pull up the wiki, because this B block has like 1 million people at like 10 points. Let's see here. So we got... Oh, come on. Let me get to the bottom. Here we go. Current standings. Yeah, blue stars. No, it'd be red stars. So yeah. Himeka Azumi 12. Maika, Tam Nakano, Shuri, Utami, and Risa Sera all at 10 points. And then you have your flash rollers, Mai Sakurai, Koguma, and Saki Kashima all at 6. And man, that's just, let's see, that's with still a few matches to spare. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people are in the quote-unquote hunt. Still, that is insane. Little different story in the Blue Stars, a little bit. God, that Julia Mayu Utani draw really puts a interesting perspective on a lot of things, for sure. But yeah, this Red Star block is just a logjam, and it might come down to like a draw or two, a count out, or a big upset victory where someone just happens to win by 2 points. So keep an eye out for something like that. But back to Tam and Unagi. Unagi's best match of the tournament, I'd say. I thought about a 2 out of 3, but there was just something that didn't hit for me. And that was in the fact that I think I would have liked to see Unagi hit more offense to create a near fall perspective, because that's like Tam's doing well. I like the slaps and the heel kicks and whatnot. She was getting pops out of the crowd. Unagi's biggest instance was almost trying to roll her up and the frog splash from the top. And that's just, to me, that just wasn't enough. So I'm still waiting for Unagi to develop something a little more in her game to kind of set up her finishers. Because if she can start doing that, then we're talking. And our main event, probably a match that a lot of people are going to focus on for the show, and rightly so. Suzu Suzuki loses to Mayu Utani. Mayu goes to 11. Suzu stuck at 2, so she's in Unagi Sayaka territory. 10:52. And they did good forearms, lots of super kicks, lots of great sequences. The problem here, why I couldn't go to that full 3, is I think I'm kind of getting wary of the Mayu flash finish in this tournament. For someone whom has the most main events for the tournament so far, for someone that they clearly are still high on, someone that fans just absolutely love, and rightly so, Mayu has, to me, in matches like this, she has more matches like this where it's like something just didn't hit, and it really like takes me out of the ending of the match. Because we're talking the Saya Kamatani match, the Suzu Suzuki, the ones that weren't against like Hanan and Momokogo. Like, everything's worked well and good, and then the match just kind of ends and you go, yeah, all right, that was fine. Like, Suzu hits one German, she goes for the second one, it gets countered, and the roll-up was like really good and convincing, but that's kind of been Mayu's story in the tournament. I say, you can do this story, but I want a better kind of representation of a main event. You know? I want that kind of clean pin. I want a good 15-minute draw. I want the drama instead of the shock finish in a main event situation. And that's been happening very frequently, especially with Mayu. And she's even losing that way too with the roll-ups. It's almost like the Naito story from the G1, very roll-uppy. But Suzu was great. She's only won the one match against Saya Kamatani, so the prodigy battle is right there, where Suzu's possibly like not... she's clearly landing it with the domestic audience, where she brawls outside immediatay. She's got them by the hair, and Daichi's trying to tell her to get back in the ring, and she's got this like rebellious teenager attitude where she's saying, "I don't want an old man, make me." It's very childish instead of heelish. I would like to see more heel stuff, and I do like the sore loser part of her at the end of matches where she's like shoving people, not shaking their hand. She's shoving the ref, get off me. I like all that, but the childish jokes, I'm not about that. And that outside sequence, I'm definitely over it. I'd like to see her move along to more of a heel shtick like the Mirai match. That was a great example of what I would have liked to see more in the Mayu match, because Mayu was selling her ass off. She was bumping all over the place. She was playing the person in peril, which definitely works. Suzu has developed a style to own a match especially when it's like her time to lose. She's been very good at that on the indie scene, where she's great at controlling just to lose at the end, more than her selling like a Mayu. So in that sense, this match was probably the best chemistry of the night, just with the very unsatisfying finish and kind of beginning sequence for me. So what does this mean for the outlook on the rest of the tournament? In the Blue Stars, we have Hazuki with 14, Saikam Mitani 12. And then we have that wacky tie, so Julia and Mayu are at 11. And then Mirai, Amisore, and Natsupoi all at 10. Effectively, I believe Starlight Kid, Momo, and Mina Shirakawa at 6 are out. Let me see here. It depends how many matches they have. So let's see. Kid she can get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. She can still get 12 points. There's still a lot of tournament for her. Yeah, that's no problem. And then Momo has 4 matches, so that's 8 points. She's technically not out. No, she lost to Hazuki, didn't she? So she is out. I think she's eliminated, effectively. I think that's right. No, they haven't fought each other. Oh, they're on the last night. Boy, does that feel spoiler. Yeah, Hazuki's only got the 2 matches left against Mayu and Momo. So, yeah, we got some situations developing. It's kind of obvious where we're heading. And yeah, that's the Korakuen. I would have liked to see things hit higher, but for all the matches, with the exception of the all-cap Saki and Saki Kashima match, I would say this Korakuen was fine. Little underwhelming when it was said and done for me. I do like different sort of things going on, and in that sense, this day did well to establish some different things. And I am extremely enjoying the Mina Shirakawa run. If we want to talk about kind of MVPs of the tournament, I would say the one that's vastly exceeded expectations is Mina Shirakawa. Just about every one of her matches is recommendable in some capacity. And then, at this point in the tournament, with Suzu Suzuki with 5 matches, and she has only 1 win, and the big one is the champion. She could effectively lose the rest of the tournament. She still has that 1 match under her belt, but she has, I have given Suzu's first 5 matches at least 2 out of 3, or the full 3. And nobody else was like that, but then again, she has a very power schedule at the front end. Again, I fully expect her to make a big back half run, and Julia's kind of in the sights. At the point in 5 matches, she would have, let's see, I think she has 12 recommendations, or at least point-wise, and the only other person that equals her in that time frame is Starlight Kid with the 12. So those are my kind of 1-2 MVPs at that 5 match mark. Overall, right now in total points, I have Julia Saikam Mitani at 16, and Natsupoi at 16, and Hazuki at 17, but she has a few more matches than everybody else. Very enjoyable tournament. I look forward to the next show, and I will see you guys next time. Alrighty. So, I know I said that that was the end of the Joshi section, but in between my little recording session here, I got to watch TakaTaichiDespy Mania, And I know that is the BB Hulk drop that you heard, I believe, for the first time. We are going to talk a little Dragongate, so I'm going to kind of lump these two in together at the same time here before I get into the All Japan Women retro section of the podcast. The JTO show from Yoyogi had 1,900 people there, a very good turnout. It's amazing what you could do with some Stardom and New Japan wrestlers on your show, and with a loyal fan base that Taka Michinoku kind of has gathered here. But there's two matches of note that were very good. The Maika Mirai defeating Aoi and Inaba match went 19 minutes. It's a heavy banger. If this match was put on a Stardom show, even that Yokohama show that I just got done talking about, if you told me this was the best match on that show, I'd believe you. I still think something like the artist title and Mayu Julia, for me, hit a little harder, but I also think the crowd had a lot to do with this match, because they did have full cheering, and Mike and Mirai just really had a lot of energy to them. But this was, to me, Inaba's coming out party. There's a lot of us that have seen the potential with her. We've seen her now join up with God's Eye from the New Blood show, and her going after essentially her senpais, the people that came before her, especially to Maika, was a very good kind of rivalistic setting there, where Maika's about to get the hot tag, couldn't get it because Inaba just comes over and bicycle kicks her face, and they built up to that big showdown later. There's even, when the match starts, Inaba gets a big smile on her face, pushes Mirai, her tongue sticking out. She's just super excited to have this match. This is the Inaba that we all want to see. And Aoi was right there with her. I mean, she's only a year in her career. She's still got a lot to do. She really reminds me a lot of kind of early Mayu, where got a good look, kind of dangly and lanky. I think Aoi is a much more comfortable character set to her already, miles before Mayu ever figured that out. But as for the ring game, Aoi's not as, I would say, clumsy in ring yet, or comparatively to early Mayu. But there's a lot of similarities there you can kind of see. But going back to Inaba, it's too often we watch a Sendai show, or that whatever that Basement Monstar show is where she was against Suzu Suzuki in front of 10 people. And they just go, this isn't going to work for me, brother. What are we doing? We're just going to hit the mat for 15 of these 18 minutes and just do nothing. And that happens a lot. Even Inaba just kind of facing off the same people over and over again, just kind of stuck in undercards. To me, never saw this level of kind of enthusiasm with her game, unless you're an Alex from Stardom Quest, who seeks out every single Inaba match imaginable. I'm sure he's seen this side of her before, but this is more or less a first for me. I've seen too much of the grapple fuck game that just isn't exciting. This was just incredible by the fact that Maika and Mirai treated these two like they were the hometown stars. They were the invaders. They were here to... And they're so much bigger than them on top of them, just, thick muscle. So it kind of does show that they are the older women in charge here comparatively to Aoi and Inaba. But they're still those invaders. They're coming into enemy territory. The crowd loves Inaba and Aoi. They're your home court advantage, home ice playoff people. And Mira and Maika wasn't going to take that sitting down. So that was awesome to see. The near falls were fantastic. The finish was very definitive. Maika got the big win, kind of scooched Aoi out of the way after she pinned her. Good stuff. I gave this a full 3. And then in the main event, it was Desperado taking on Jun Kasai, which people said they've had a couple matches prior. Goes back to their early days. I guess it's a K-Dojo thing, or just a Freedom's Indie thing. I don't know. Couldn't be bothered to really look up the history of that, but it was a hard-fought, bloody match. It was it says singles match. It should say death match to it. There was a lot of wacky weaponry that came out in this. It's Jun Kasai, so you got the skewers, You have wacky boards with like various glass and blades to them that were coming out. It went 28 minutes, 30 seconds. So it was a long one. And a lot of people are treating this as a match of the year contender. And while I don't disagree with that sentiment, I do disagree to the level it's being held at. Because to me, when it was all said and done, especially in the first half of this match, it really felt to me just as a walk and brawl, just death match, where it's just breaking out the next plunder weapon, walking around the ring, and hitting each other with it. Not much going on there with story or rivalry or even good wrestling moves. It was just, oh, look at the wacky thing next. It's as the match went on, the escalation of how to get guys in the moves. I was like, okay, now we're talking. We're actually kind of incorporating something into this match. And so when we got to the finish and the ending sequences, that the near falls were really good. It was very dramatic, very enticing. There was a lot to love there. And Desperado pulling out the win generally kind of shocked me because in the case of Dookie or some others, and I know Desperado is... What gets me was the fact of how kind of a decisive victory Desperado won, and even though I thought that his victory should have been assumed, there's just something about this where it's like, okay, this is one of Taka's big main event guys coming in. Surely they won't lose. I guess I kind of worked myself there. And good promos after the match, good little feels there between Kasai giving advice, and then him and his daughter bowing to Desperado in the ring. Desperado's mask was ripped off in the first 2 minutes of this thing. Very cool black mat setup with a white kind of symbol in the middle. I love that. And they both came out wearing white, so it's all right, we're gonna bleed here. And this was my main critique of this. Instead of building up to something where the mask was to be ripped off, very much in that realm of that same Desperado Hiromu match where Despy got the mask ripped and then he takes it off himself kind of situation. Instead here, it's just Kasai gets a blade right after he just kind of tears at the mask for a minute and then just opens him up and he's bleeding through and the mask is hanging from his neck. It's a cool visual, but to me it was just kind of the violence for sake of violence thing, which really turns me off death matches in general. I would have really liked to see that play into more of a story, because I really thought this lacked a lot of story, at least in match structures. But again, yeah, I went full 3 on it. But is it a 4.5 Big Dave star rating kind of deal? I don't think so. Still very good. I did think emotionally, the Dookie match from early in the year was indeed better, but from the wrestling and kind of cool factor to it, I thought this was better than that match. And that will take me into Dragongate, particularly Stormgate 2022, Cork and Hall, attendance of 1,096. This is right in line with what Dragongate has been drawing kind of all year at Cork and Hall. They're a monthly Cork and company. These are one of their bigger shows, along with... I can't even say Kyoto's all that big anymore. Let me see. Has Dragongate even... When was the last time they ran a Kyoto show? Let's see. Because it doesn't even... I can't even remember the last time they did that. It looks like July 17th was the last time they ran Kyoto. Let's see what they got there. That's a town I'd love to see Stardom start hitting a little bit more, is Kyoto. Yeah, well, KBS Hall. What did Stardom do? So, Dragongate did 303 last time in Kyoto in July. Stardom's done this 3 times, but it's Miyu Amasaki return shows. What did they do at the end of June? 505. Okay, cool. So, but I would like to see them do a little bit more in Kyoto still. That comment still stands. But anyways, they ran Stormgate, and these shows are, with the exception of 3 matches, maybe 4, they're kind of set up where, okay, for example, There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 matches on this Cork and Hall show. And to me, it was a 4-match show. And that's a little bit higher than what I've been kind of watching and peeking in on Dragongate. It's really they get a good first match and a good main event. Maybe you get a semi. In this case, you had kind of your 2 matches with angles, and that's very much what Dragongate is about these days. Is more angles, more story, and the matches are kind of secondary. They're much shorter, and that really comes across as the Ultimo Dragon kind of influence that a lot of Dragongate fans are talking about. But in short kind of review terms here, as we get towards Dangerous Gate, which is happening soon, we're doing a Z-Brats Natural Vibes feud, and that was kind of your opener. I think it's a unit disband match. I could flip a coin to which people. The thing is, like Skywalker and SB Kento and all these guys, they're not here right now. So I'm losing interest in that part of the story when it sure seems like the key guys are just kind of absent and they're just going to come back to no faction. So I kind of expect KZ's group to disband, despite that Strong Machine J just kind of joined the group and is breakdancing kind of deal. But we move on. There's some new rookies, but there's also other rookies that quit that are showing up in other places. Dragongate's kind of in a messy transitional period here. But in other words, in other news, Gold Class took on High End. I thought this was done very well. Minorita does his guy will chase him to the back deal, and Benkei was the latest victim. But as the match went on, and Kagetora and Yamato were fighting this essentially 2-on-2, maybe 2-on-3 for a little bit, Benkei comes back. He's got the Gold Class shorts on with a rose in his mouth. He spears Yamato. He joins Gold Class. High End, this faction's been on its last leg for like the better part of a year. Just very uninteresting, not going anywhere. And so Benkei turns heel. He joins Gold Class, injects something into them, especially considering Kaito Ishida is now gone. You can maybe argue that Gold Class is kind of a lost cause. But Benkei, he's cutting these promos now in Dragon Gate, and they're very strange. I do like him. He's got this chick attitude towards him, and he's got the rose in his mouth, and I believe on the next Stormgate show, Kagetora calls him a chick asshole. It's good stuff. So Benkei's getting a little personality here, so watch out. I did enjoy the Ishin family versus Masaki Mochizuki family match. That was funny. The Ishin Ihashi gets his first win. Mochi Jr. has a good rivalry set up. There was a good post-match thing here where Utaku Hozumi comes down because the Ishins want to challenge for the trios titles, and Saki Mochizuki, a senior, is like, hey, what's up with you, Utaku, the old LLPW woman? And she's like, well, unless Miss Mochizuki wants to get involved, I'm, long retired. But then they do a sister angle, and it's Don Fuji dressed up as a woman. I sure hope he doesn't continue dressing up like a woman, because it caused a lot of laughter. It's very strange, and I think that kind of brings matches down. Don Fuji, comedy dynamo in 2022. And then the main event, good match. I think I went 2 out of 3 on that. And then the main event, Kung Fu Masters with Eita taking on DeCourage and Madoka Kakuta. This was essentially your Twin Gate and Dream Gate challengers taking on the champions. And it was a good match. There's nothing wrong with it. Eita really has been built up pretty well as a challenger the last month, which is something they desperately needed. He kicked the ass of Yuki Yoshioka. He pinned him. He is very confident right now. He looks like a strong challenger. It's a shame he's kind of the first one, more or less. I know that's not exactly true, but it sure feels that way. And with Eita kind of in flux with this whole Noah thing, and Dragon Gate and Noah kind of doing these little joint shows here and there, something just feels off in this promotion. It feels cold. They have their fans kind of doing their own thing. But as for what Dangerous Gate looks like a slightly better built card than any of the Kobe Worlds were, which kind of says something. I'm into the Twin Gate title match. I'm more or less into the Dream Gate one. I like the idea of the trios titles, as long as Don Fuji doesn't continue to dress and drag. The unit disbandment match is interesting, and then I'm sure it's like every other Dragon Gate show this year where the under to mid card is more or less just random filler that serves no purpose other than reps and to please a live crowd more than a live audience. So we're kind of at a 3 to 4 match promotion right now. The roster seems thin, even though that's not exactly true, but the way everything kind of comes together, that's where we're at. And that is Dragon Gate. Time to move on to the All Japan Women. So pulling up the drop here. Here we go. Where is my Akira Hokuto drop? My God. Here it is. And here we are. It is All Japan Women Classics episode 76 here on the RLL proper / All Japan Women Destiny podcast feed. We are at August 5th, 1993. We have 68 days of the Japan Grand Prix, where a lot of these matches just are like single, they're just kind of thrown on a match on a random card or a house show. Most of them don't make tape, and I really feel like we've missed a lot. But here's the thing: when you look at the tournament of it all, I think a winner only gets 1 point, and if you get a draw or a double countout, that's a half point. So the amount of points are kind of deceiving, where you got your block winners getting 6 points here. That's just kind of what we're doing here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. 16. It's a 16-person tournament. 8 people in 2 blocks. Your 2 winners of the block will get seeded, and the runner-ups of the block will get kind of a 2 seed, and the winner of Block A will face the second place of Block B in the semifinals, and then we have a finals. So this show on August 5th was essentially the Block A final matchup, in which the winner would win the block and get that 1 seed to go on to see if they would face, at this point, it was kind of a Bat Yoshinaga, Manami Toyota, Yumiko Hota situation here. Yes, you heard that right. Bat Yoshinaga was in contention for the winning the block by the final night, even though you got Hikari Fukuoka and Kyoko Inoue only with 3.5 points. And I will go over more of the block kind of results a little bit later, because this August 5th show is pretty interesting just from kind of what happens on it. There's a key historical moment in the main event of the show. There's a very good trios match, and then just kind of undercard filler that gives you an idea of where AJW is at this point in time. So this took place from Ibaraki, Japan, at the Kasimagora Cultural Gymnasium. 1,850 in attendance. It absolutely looked that full. It's a pretty cool arena, to be honest. I like these old, volleyball-esque basketball, where it's very circular, surrounding the ring in a more natural sense. Very cool venues that you can run a lot of these wrestling shows. And in fact, at the latest JTO show they ran at Yoyogi Gym, that's very much set up in a similar way. This one's a little bit more rectangular, so I like the circular element to that JTO Yoyogi place. But this one was good too. There was a singles match where Tomoko Watanabe defeats Chikako Shiratori. And then there was a tag match where it's LCO of Mima Shimoda and Tsukimita taking on and defeating the comedy jobber Numachi, whom has dropped the last name. She's just Bucket Shovel Girl now. She looks like the gardener. And Infernal Kaoru. So I did mention this briefly before on an older, I believe it was the Dream Slam show, actually, a few podcasts ago, where Kaoru's back in AJW. And she's got her CMLL mask persona going, and she was fired from AJW because she wanted to, like, essentially party. And there's old, like, quotes from her in Mexico. It's like, how did you come to be here and what deal? And there's this connection between, like, her and Kyoko Inoue and Akira Hokuto, where essentially they just, like, fell in love with the Mexican culture. You know, these are like hot fit women in their early 20s. They're having a good time south of the border, if you know what I'm saying. And Kaoru just loved it so much there, but she's back in AJW, and it's funny how all of a sudden these rules are being thrown out left and right when business is good. They don't want to lose the business again, and your roster is getting injured left and right, so you have to fill out these cards. So now Kaoru's back in the fold. She's getting paid. She still gets to have fun in Mexico. And, you know, these matches are okay. I can do without Numachi. I have no use for her. But in terms of, like, the mixing up between Infernal Kaoru and LCO, that is good. And LCO does win. Nice little 13.5-minute match. And we get to kind of the business end of the classic episode where you can just kind of turn it on, watch your hour. And these are essentially like the full match times, okay, that you see. Bull Nakano takes on Kaoru Ito, 6 minutes, 20 seconds. I am so tired of Peter Pan Kaoru Ito here. She needs to learn more offense than just run around and double stomp. I feel like I'm on repeat here with her. But in the tag sense, it hides her more because she can come in, hit her key moves, and leave. But in a singles match, that's all you get. In Bull Nakano, part-time Bull Nakano, 200 matches still, phase down Bull Nakano, where they're still protecting her, and she drops like at least a couple falls a year now instead of none. She does win this with the top rope leg drop. Ito does, I believe, kick out of the Fire Thunder Bomb, you know, the over-the-shoulder power bomb. So more people are getting a little bit more of a rub from Bull Nakano of kicking out of key moves here. But she still loses in 6 minutes. Bull Nakano's over, and we're done here kind of situation. In the mid-card, we have Aja Kong defeating Bat Yoshinaga. And Aja Kong was not in the Grand Prix, so this was a straight-up Bat Yoshinaga bully match, which, if you look at kind of what happens in this and what was reported out of the Dream Slam show from earlier in the year, is Bat Yoshinaga has been having, like, neck and shoulder issues. You know, fused neck, possibly broken collarbone kind of situation, depending on what sources you read. And she didn't really miss any time, and this is one of her last matches. She only has a handful of matches left in her career, besides a kind of final 3-match run situation, and it's all because of these neck issues. And she was just beaten into the ground. Aja Kong and her go 13 minutes. There was even a nice Bull Nakano Ito kind of brawl on the outside, and then Aja Kong comes, I will one-up you, and they just go all the way around the arena, throwing each other in chairs. Chairs are flying. We're stacking them on each other. It's very much kind of two peas in the pod situations of this match. So Bat Yoshinaga, you know, she might have a good-looking kick here and there. She's the run-off-the-ropes wheel kick spamming person. So, but it's funny, Kaoru Ito and Yoshinaga are kind of two peas in the pods in themselves. So you kind of, it's almost like you got the AAA level match, and then you got the Major League match. Or if you're not fans of Ito and Yoshinaga like I am, then you got like a single A and double A style match, where the actual major leaguers were playing with their food. Aja Kong hits the back fist. I believe there's a nice, decent little wheel kick near fall there, but ultimately Aja Kong hits a Saito suplex and pins Bat Yoshinaga, and we kind of go home there. And now we're into the crux of the card, and these next two matches, it's pretty much what you'd expect out of the wrestlers involved, especially when you've been watching them long enough. So this trios match was Kyoko Inoue, Manami Toyota, and Toshi Yamada. They defeat Suzuka Minami, Takako Inoue, and Yumiko Hotta. It's a 20-minute match, and when you kind of think in your head, okay, how is this match going to be like when there's a lot of people involved and there's not a lot of mat game to it? So picture that in your head, and so then you'll have instances where Toyota is going to be spamming the dropkick button. Toyota and Kyoko Inoue are going to be jumping off the ropes randomly. Probably some like outside dives, crossbodies, and then Toshi Yamada might hit some German suplexes. Okay? So there's your kind of interaction there with those three. While Suzuka Minami, by the way, between Suzuka Minami, Takako Inoue, and Yumiko Hotta, all had nice new gear. Suzuka Minami dropped the kind of flower tie-dye deal to this really nice blue singlet action with like a flower on the front. Takako Inoue has what looks to be a more modern Joshi singlet going on with a nice teal blue action. And Yumiko Hotta has a black and white. It's still her same style, but it's a much nicer black and white with the YH symbol in the middle. Leveled up gear, always nice to see. Suzuka Minami and Takako Inoue kind of stuck to suplexes, maybe trying to work some limbs, but it was really just kind of hitting them instead of working the mat. And Hotta was kind of out of this match for a lot of the time. She'd come in, try to get a kick in, and then leave. I guess that makes the match better in my mind. And it was a lot of just hitting key moves, a decent, pin breakup here and there. And Toyota's sunset, she sunset flips Hotta for the pin, so it's more of a flash pin at the end of all this. And it has a 4.5 rating in the Observer. And maybe I think at the time, when you're like tape trading and salivating for anything and everything AJW, you could see a match like this and you're like, oh, hell yeah, this is great. But it's funny, in like modern eyes, and even in the instance of like watching AJW as much as I do right now and on this journey, that this seemed to be like kind of just a standard like 3.5 star tag, maybe a little higher based on, maybe you like some of the wrestlers' moves a little bit more like I did. So I'm in that like 3.75 range, a 2 out of 3 recommendation. It was just very standard stuff that was very enjoyable. Like you're not gonna come out of this match going, that was bad or I wasted my time. Nothing like that. But you definitely got your like money's worth and your fill over seeing these wrestlers interact in the ring. In our main event, this is where a lot of the talking points happen on this show. It's the Red Block final, if you will. It's Akira Hokuto taking on LLPW's Harley Saito, whom, by all accounts, has had a good tournament. She showed up in the tapes here and there. She kind of hung in there with the best. So Akira Hokuto does win this match, and it goes on for 17 minutes 51 seconds. And so the blocks go like this: the people outside looking in, Tomoko Watanabe a half point, Etsuko Mita 3, Takako Inoue 3, Saki Asagawa 3, Suzuka Minami 3, Toshimata a little better, 4.5. So there's your half. So Yamada and Watanabe, I guess, went to a 30-minute draw. Don't think I'd like to see that match, personally. that seems... Hopefully it's like a double countout. and it didn't last 30 minutes. But at the top was Hokuto and Saito, kind of decisively, with a lot of the mid-carders trying to break out into the upper, and somebody like a Suzuka Minami, whom has had her chance at the top. She doesn't quite work out there, but she can definitely bring it in tags and be a good role filler. So it was either going to be when you kind of put unless they had direct plans for like Takako Inoue and Hasegawa, or even Etsuko Mita, where she developed her finisher in this tournament, and that's what kind of got her a couple big wins in this. Let me see if I can get the name of that move she busts out at the end of the tournament. Let's see here. I think I have to go to cage match actually for Etsuko Mita. I know it's getting kind of off topic with her, but Etsuko Mita in the Grand Prix this year and just slightly before it, particularly around the Dream Slam show, is where she kind of started breaking out. Let's see. She's the 825 reverse DDT, airplane spin, blazing chop, I think it's the Death Valley bomb she develops. I don't think it's the 825. It's one of those two. So the Yamada draw probably kept her from getting to the finals area, and so that treats the outsider Harley Saito as the bigger outsider star. And Hokuto is the biggest star in the company, and that's kind of where we're at in the red block here, Block A. In the blue block, your Block B, your blue stars, it's a little bit more top-end heavy, but Numata, she got 0, no surprise there. Kaoru Ito got 2, not really any surprise there. And then Mima Shimoda, 2.5. Kyoko Inoue at 3.5 is very surprising. Bat Yoshinaga, for some reason, really had a lot of like credibility to her. UWF was very popular at the time. She kind of represented that. So you really have to like have an inside track with people that ran AJW and ask them directly, like, hey, what the hell was it with Bat Yoshinaga? I don't think she was any good in the ring. I thought the martial arts title stuff was atrocious, but they wanted to keep her strong. And she really was put over strong in this tournament, and it came down to, I believe, the tiebreaker where Toyota beat Bat Yoshinaga, and that's what got Toyota the top spot at the for the semifinal spot. And then Hota kind of just ran through everybody. She got 6 points, just like Akira Hokuto. I don't believe it came down to the last day with her. Let's see if I can pull up a Yumiko Hota match guide here. And see in 1993 what happened. So bear with me. Because I've been saying for a little while that Hota is kind of the pin eater of the AJW proper, especially when other companies are involved. But she's still like weirdly protected. She's part of that same class. She is a like more senpai type person towards much of the roster. And the new gear's a good sign. Okay, here we go. So August 5th-ish. We're going to have... Yeah, it doesn't list if they're actually Grand Prix matches or not. But, yeah, I'm looking at this now. Hota defeats Kaoru Ito on July 17th to get 5 points. So if I am to... man, this Thunder Queen battle show looks good. Hota and Plum Mariko. 14 minutes. I'm looking for a singles match here near the end. And here's the other thing. A lot of these matches like took place in like parking lots and parks and stuff, and we could be missing matches in between here, and that's how many they would wrestle in a single year. Let's see. It's definitely not the Aja Kong single. So yeah, there's a match missing here on Cage Match that I just don't know who she fought. But there's definitely something in there I'm missing. Regardless. So our final four is going to be Akira Hokuto taking on Manami Toyota. A rematch of a semifinal match from the Grand Prix, I believe, in 1990, where Toyota ended up winning. And that's where Hokuto went off the top and like crashed her knee and it like fell out during the match, and they had to pull an audible. So they're trying to recreate that again, and then you have Yumika Hotta taking on Harley Saito, Battle of the Kick people. That could be cool. I believe we're going to be able to see that on the Classics, which I'm pretty excited for. The semifinals are going to take place on August 21st for the Grand Prix final. So I got to get a hold of that because I don't think that's in the Classics, actually. I think they're trying to skip straight to the Legacy of Queen show, which is the big... was that show at Budokan? I believe it was at Budokan on August 25th. So let's see if the Classics... Let's do a little preview here. So it's going to go straight into the Legacy of Queens. So what I think I'm going to do is, and I hope I remember this, is I'm going to find the Grand Prix semifinal and final match. That will be episode 76. And then I will do a full episode on the Legacy of Queen show after that. Because on the Classics here, I'm looking at it right now, 77 and 78, is the Legacy of Queen show split in two. It's actually split in three, so I can do 2 episodes on that. Yeah, okay. We're going to go that route on that one. Assuming I find the Grand Prix final matches and semifinals. If I can't find it, then expect the Legacy of Queens in three sections. So, the match between Hokuto and Harley Saito, it's another example of Hokuto bringing out the absolute best in her opponent. There's a screenshot I took and posted on Twitter where the camera's right on Hokuto. She's got the black fingernails, she's got the black lipstick, got the blonde hair, the death stare, and it looks like she just has pitch black eyes. And she is going to murder her opponent. It's just such a star presence that you just can't teach. And she just has that poise in the ring and knows how to just put a match together at this point, or at least just it naturally comes to her. And one of my critiques on the LOPW journey over on the Patreon, patreon.com/redleafretrocast, where you can follow along with all the LOPW shows, one of my major critiques of Harley Saito is she doesn't have that structure to her in her matches. She's got good technique with like the wheel kicks and trying to pick those spots, but in terms of just like a big match structure, she really lacks that, and she hasn't like learned that yet. However, in terms of this match with Hokuto's setting the pace. Hokuto's owning the match. Hokuto is kind of setting her up for Saito's various comebacks and hitting, a big German suplex at points, and a really compelling element of this match is when Hokuto, I believe she hits a drop kick, and then there's a sequence where Harley Saito is working the knee, she's working the leg, she's going after it because it's very heavily taped up. Like, it's thick, the bandages on Hokuto's left knee. And there's an instance where I believe Saito hits the wheel kick, Hokuto rolls to the outside, and she splats on the floor. No mats, because everyone in AJW is out of their minds insane. Like, drop me on my neck. I got 3 of them in the trunk of my car. Hopefully, I have the spare packed away and ready. Limbs, forget it. I'll tape them up. I'll show up to work tomorrow, boss. Because to them, it's like a fucking shoot. So Hokuto splats on the ground, and if you notice kind of the setup of the area, there's, they got the big, like, CRT TV under the ring, the mat's kind of on the other side of it, so the commentary table's looking at it, and it was very frequent of the time that someone under the ring to, like, fix the boards and stuff, especially in terms of like, Japan, the boards would come loose, there'd be a guy underneath, where if the guys would, like, spill to the outside, he could start trying to fix the boards underneath the ring, and he can see them from the camera, but she's by this big monitor, commentary's talking about her, and Hokuto has, like, 2 trainers around her, and she's just spending all this time under the ring, like talking to somebody. And it's not uncommon. I mean, we saw this with the famous Lioness Asuka Chigusa Nagayo match where the red belt was on the line, and Nagayo did like a big arm injury, and she's like talking to people under the ring. She got back in the ring, and it played into a big story where she lost because of the injury suffered in the match, and Asuka refused the title and drops it, vacates it because she didn't want to win that way. So I thought we were on a pace for a storyline where Hokuto is now working hurt, and that's when Saito really has the advantage to lock in some knee bars, do more LLPW style that they're doing at this time, and it would create a lot of drama, and Hokuto fights back and wins this, or Saito would win this. I didn't know coming into the match who exactly won this match, and then as I'm watching this with a couple friends, and it's like, oh, is this the match where she supposedly blows out her knee, and then she's out for a little while? And then I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Does she blow out her knee, or is it worked? Because, I'm reading observers from like late July all through August. There's no talk of injury. I watched LLPW. She's cutting promos on LLPW wrestlers. I believe she shows up and wrestles in the company or at least she's still wrestling in AJW in like September. She definitely goes into a feud with Rumi Kazuma, and there's the LCO LLPW feud. I'm like, what do you mean knee injury? And the match certainly has that drama to it. She's Hokuto, and then there's like telltale signs in the match. You see Hokuto, and you're like, I don't know if that's like legit or not. And then the signs come. She's still trying to do like top rope drop kicks, and her knee is like buckling underneath her. She can't really make the distance. She's not really running the ropes. Saito is kind of running for her. Hokuto is still doing like all the power moves, and kind of, you're like, is she kind of leaning in one direction now? And sure enough, I find the September 13th, 1993 Observer, and even on like Hokuto's Wikipedia page, you can find old quotes that it's referencing, but Hokuto does indeed blow out her knee in this match. This is the one where it happens, and I'm reading the Observer here, and here's an excerpt from this. The big news was after the main event of a September 5th show at Korakuen Hall, and we covered this on LLPW, so this is kind of a nice little instance here. Rumi Kazuma came into the ring and challenged Hokuto to a hair versus hair match. It was long believed that it was going to be a hair match against Shinobu Kandori. Okay? So things are changing a little bit. The hair versus hair match will be on LLPW's biggest card of the year, November 9th in Tokyo. Great show. Definitely recommend it. Go listen to it on the Patreon. Hokuto said she'd announce on September 29th in Nagoya as to whether or not she'll accept the challenge. Spoiler, she does. Hokuto has been working every night with a blown-out knee, suffered the first week of August. That's this show. And then on 8/21, broke a bone in her back. Did not know that. So she's got a blown-out knee, and she's got a fucked-up broken bone in her back, and she still works almost every night. She'll be getting a knee operation on September 17th, and while it has yet to be announced, Dave Meltzer, believes the ultimate hair versus hair match of Hokuto versus Kandori will take place on December 6th at Tokyo Sumo Hall. I believe that show is actually at the Ryogoku Kokogen. And what actually does happen is there is talk of, instead of a hair match, it's going to be a retirement match. Because now we're getting to the belief that Hokuto will retire. Well, that's not true. So there's a lot of plans changing and trying to get like the ultimate match stipulation involved. I believe it ends up being just a straight up singles match, and it's Kandori Hokuto 2, which is a big time match coming off of their match from Dream Slam. And Hokuto and Rumi Kazuma becomes a program with Hokuto's white belt, and then it continues into the hair match at November for LLPW, which is a very significant show in LLPW's history, especially in the early parts. So, if you've seen the a little documentary with like Hokuto and Bull Nakano, and it really follows around Akira Hokuto a lot, when AJW joins WCW and New Japan at the joint show in North Korea, it's follow along Hokuto, and she is like in so much pain. She is constantly complaining about her back, and I don't believe she ever gets the surgery to fix the bone in her back until like way later, right? Probably like post 1995, she doesn't get this fixed. And this is a major proponent in her like retiring at such an early age, is because having things like a blown out knee and a bone in her back sticking out, it's like no wonder these people like just beat their bodies up so bad and they're in so much pain and retire early. It's because they just never have this chance to heal. So this is also why she kind of stops wrestling for AJW and she becomes a freelancer. Is now she doesn't have to wrestle every freaking night. So there's a huge flaw in AJW's like schedule and how they run things, and they're still in this like old mentality. And yes, they did get rid of the mandatory retirement rule, but they're failing to adapt to the times. And Hokuto's like body breaking down is like a representation of how flawed they are. The match was great. I really liked it. Go 4.25 on it. I went full 3. It's a legit injury does help the case on creating drama, but it goes just under the 18-minute mark. She wins with a gut-wrench power bomb to win. She doesn't even use her Northern Lights bomb, and Hokuto wins the block. She's going to go on to face Manami Toyota now with a busted knee, and she will break a bone in her back on the August 21st show, which I believe is during the match with Manami Toyota. She injures herself again against Manami Toyota in a Grand Prix. So there's maybe there's something cursed about that matchup. I hope I find that, by the way. And that will do it. Hopefully I find the Grand Prix matches here to finish it out. This has been a long journey. A lot to break down through this Classics episode. And I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Enjoy some of that WCW. September 27th, 1999. Tanner, how's it going?
Yes. Oh, it's going, man. How are you doing?
Oh, ready to talk some Nitro.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, this one was fun.
This episode was nonsense. You know what was on Raw? Obviously kicking their ass in the ratings. I mean, that goes without saying now. You know what episode of Raw this was that it was up against?
No. What episode would that be?
It would be the Rock This Is Your Life episode.
Oh gosh. Yeah, man. Of course this would go down in flames.
And I believe it's the last night that Russo works for WWE.
Oh shit. Time's a ticking, man.
Time's a ticking. And there's a number of things that happen on this Nitro that we watched, which I swore happened in the Russo era. Like if we would have done trivia, you go, well, what did this happen with Lex Luger or Sid Vicious? I'm like, oh, fuck, that's like late '99 Russo, duh, right? Maybe not like tell you what month it was, but I was like, that was definitely '99 Russo. Not true. Not true at all. I was like, that's this episode while watching this. It was crazy.
This is still very much the Kevin Nash era, no?
No. So now it's like a wacky committee mostly with like Dusty Rhodes type stuff.
Yeah.
Because Bischoff was fired like 2 weeks ago or 3.
Yeah, he's
whichever it
off
is.
in Wyoming fly fishing.
Right.
Is the story.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's where he goes to hibernate and make fun of AEW these days as well.
I mean, of course.
AEW's failing. I don't know if you know this.
That's what I've been told by Eric Bischoff.
Right. No locker room ever has had disagreements among wrestlers. That's never happened. Certainly not this WCW locker room. No way.
That's this was the most quaint locker room of all time.
Yeah.
From what I'm led to
Definitely.
believe.
There's gonna be I've mentioned this earlier on the podcast, this Red Leaf Retrocast episode, but there's gonna be a time, I can't remember if it was in 2000 or if it was in late 99, that Conan goes on national radio and he buries the fuck out of WCW. Its owners, everyone who like runs the place. He starts rattling off like shitty wrestlers that are going into business for themselves all the time. Does this like promo sound familiar to you in any way?
Yes.
Yeah. You know what happened to Conan?
He got well, he didn't get fired. I mean,
No.
he's still on the shows.
But he was very much fined and suspended. A lot of money.
That checks out, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, it's one of those things that you just can't do that. I mean, as true as it is, you just can't do that.
Yeah.
But I'll give Conan this. He did have the foresight to tell the truth and to get into radio, which would then lead to a budding career of the Disco Inferno as some kind of internet talk piece.
I am ashamed to admit that I listen to that show quite frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't give him any money. I'm not that insane.
How is old DI? The
it's
Disco
horrible.
Inferno.
It's absolutely like when Conan is the voice of reason. Like I'll be honest. Like Conan's like totally fine most of the time.
Yeah, because he's high.
Well,
he's just like, oh yeah, whatever.
But
It takes a
like
bong
Conan
hit.
has a more open mind than people like give him credit for. But he is part of that. Like if anything's like modern of like woke culture and all that, it drives him up a wall. It's got that old man attitude towards things like that. But
yeah.
Conan's a character. He thinks he knows booking, and then I was like, AAA. Like,
What happened there?
look. Like, but anyways, yeah, Disco's it's terrible.
It feels like from the episodes that I've listened to of that show, it feels like it's always like Conan's like the Joe Rogan, whereas Disco's like every crazy guest that he's ever had.
Yeah. I can go with that. I think that's pretty
Rogan's
apt.
just like, I'm just trying to be here to do this show. Like, I really don't like, like, I'm just trying to do my thing here. And Disco's like, rah, rah, rah. Like, it's always something on his mind.
Right.
I really just hope that he just stops watching the Premier League. That's getting terrible on Twitter. He makes it seem like it's all a work, but it's not. Come on, Disco, stop watching. If you're listening, please stop watching.
He's clearly got that mentality that he thinks he's smarter than he actually is.
Oh, and he's just a big old dummy.
Yeah. I was like, this guy just he's so confident about it all too, and that's what makes me laugh. He's like, I got the solution, he says.
Yeah.
And I believe he's on the booking committee of WCW right now, is why this is all kind of relevant.
Yeah, very true. The solution is Disco Fever.
Oh, that's so bad. Disco was asked if he was going to be part of the Filthy Animals with like Conan in that group, and he said no.
Wasn't he briefly in the Filthy Animals? Like, very briefly.
He might be later, but as of right now is when he was asked, according to The Observer.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
His favorite site to reference.
Yeah, he went from having very good relations with Dave and Brian to very poor relations pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's almost like when you report them and what they do, that the guys getting reported on think now it's all fake news and the dirt sheets, blah 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 blah.
Oh,
Because you know, if there's one National Enquirer out there, everyone's the National Enquirer.
Yeah.
You know, nobody could be like USA Today.
I would just love for USA Today to start covering wrestling.
Yeah, I would have liked them in that, and I would have liked them in that AEW conference when Punk was rattling off. He's like, "Okay, follow-up question."
It's just another dirt sheet.
Just another dirt sheet. USA Today. Yeah, this fake news dirt sheet site.
USA Today, if you're listening, you've got two guys right here that are fit for the job.
I'll back you up. Chicago Tribune. I'll go. The dirt sheet of the main dirt sheet of Chicago. Some say.
Yeah.
I'm gonna refer to all like newspapers and big news sites. They're dirt sheets now. That's what they are. I've seen the light. Major dirt sheet publications. Yes, exactly.
So it's just like, oh man. I just like imagine like a businessman like being asked questions. Like, yeah, I don't read these dirt sheets.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the New York Stock Exchange. This is all just hearsay. You're just another dirt sheet trying to report on.
Yeah, get out of here, Wall Street Journal. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. All you do is report nonsense.
Stonks, dirt sheets.
Yeah.
Now that we've gotten way off topic.
Yeah, I should. You know what? I was very disappointed this Nitro did not once plug WCW Mayhem.
Yeah, man. Isn't it like already out?
Yeah, it just came out in between Nitros. The last one, we saw them plugging it. They had the signs. They didn't plug it very much. But they did have like Countdown to Mayhem and all this. Now the game's out. And you'd think, hey, just released WCW Mayhem. I got myself an early copy. Tanner, are you ready for my in-depth, awesome review?
Yes, let's do this.
So, have you ever played WWF SmackDown on the PS1?
Yes, I did. Way back in the Disney.
So, it's almost exactly like that, just a different engine.
It looked very much like the same graphics.
It had the similar graphics, the little polygonal dudes. The roster's like phenomenal in the game, and I was reading reviews that were coinciding with, of course, me getting this game in real time, early access, of course, and they were like, "Well, the roster's like out of date," and I go, "Hold on, first of all, this game takes like years to develop, so." Let's be a little leeway with that, especially in the 90s, okay? Right. The other thing is, when we're watching WCW, people like change and flip-flop around so often, there's no way to keep up with it all.
Right. Well, that and weren't there at one point, there was like 960 people on their roster.
Right.
Like you want to have 960 playable characters in a game. Like, even by today's standards, that would be ridiculous.
Right, yeah. But the game's got a cool little like replay feature in there where if you hit a cool move, the camera will swift and it'll replay the move. I was like, "Oh, cool! It's a little action camera going on." Was not expecting that. The menu is like super responsive for a PS1 disc. If you because a common complaint is, well, the N64. Everything's like super responsive and quick, and like menus and stuff, it doesn't have to load. But it also doesn't have to load music a lot of the times in those cartridges because it's a lot quicker than a disc. A disc has the higher audio. You could put more on it, blah, blah, blah. So the PS1 game is very expansive in that sense. I haven't dove a lot into a lot of the modes. I was mostly just doing quick play and the main event. There's really cool features where you can put in like passwords and unlock people and characters. They took some liberties with the pay-per-view sets, I will admit. Not exactly one-to-one comparisons there with WCW, but it plays fine. Like I was very much. This brought back a lot of SmackDown, Christmas when I was 11 nostalgia here. It's like, wow, man, why didn't I get WCW Mayhem? Oh, right, I hated the show at this time. And
It wasn't
SmackDown
good.
had, and SmackDown had, well, it was also made by like THQ and shit, and still using Aki Engine type stuff, so there were better games. But like WCW Mayhem, I was pleasantly surprised. It was like, cool, this is good stuff.
I'll always remember the No Mercy when No Mercy came out. I always remember the music where the guy was like, hot diggity dog. Down, down, down. You're like, oh yeah, this is some killer music here. That was the first game to have like the ladder matches and all that good jazz.
Right,
or the
yeah.
the first one that I remember having. They introduced
like
the ladder
WCW
match.
Revenge had some cool features to it and everything. Like those games in the 90s are very, like, if WCW Mayhem is considered like a bad game of the era, then we're in good shape.
Yeah.
Because I would very much
Definitely.
rather play Mayhem than the 2K games that have come out the last like 7 years, to be honest.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, the 2Ks used to be really, really good. And then it just kind of all went downhill.
So yeah, no WCW Mayhem plugged in the entire night. I could not believe I could believe my eyes, but I could not believe my eyes. Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan still at the desk. Phillips Arena, Atlanta, Georgia, 11,919. Only like 8,000 paid or whatever in this 20,000 seat arena. So, boy, are they lucky
Rocking
Ted
that
Turner
hat.
owns that building.
Yeah, man, rocking that half capacity.
It's pretty wild that last time, around this time, they ran Atlanta, Georgia. They were in the Georgia Dome, so they've taken a step down since 98. Interesting how that works. So we're on this downward spiral of Nitro. Tonight, we have a major 6-man tag with Hogan, Hart, and Flair teaming up to face Luger, Sting, and Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah, man. we got the lead in for that last week, which was pretty cool. That was
They're actually setting up main events.
Yeah, man. It's a bit of a rarity in the few weeks that I've watched since joining you on this adventure.
Yeah, it's weird that as soon as Bischoff leaves, and someone like Dusty Rhodes comes in, whom, by the way, I think stopped being a relevant booker in like 89, 90. Because, well, DQs, blah, blah, blah. We know the drill. We know the drill with Dusty.
The Dusty finish.
A lot of his tropes have returned very, very frequently across this entire show. Meanwhile, the main events, while they make canonical sense, we're still dealing with everyone we were cheering for like 3 months ago is now bad, and everyone we were booing 3 months ago is now good.
Yeah, man. If you told somebody in 1998 or 1997 for that matter, 2 years from now, you will actually be told to hate Sting.
Which no one's buying.
No.
Again, we mentioned this last time. The only person that's like consistently getting boos is Lex Luger.
Yeah.
More on him later.
And that's just because he's terrible.
Right.
So
let's get to it. We get two instances. I'm just gonna do them both right away because this is funny. So Hogan arrives in a limo, and a bunch of kids just happen to be there, showing up in their loose 90s t-shirts. Hey, Hulkster,
women.
Can I get an autograph? Sure thing, brother. Signs some
big
kids.
little dude.
Pretty cool dude. I like your shirt. And here comes Sting, this like 6'6", 250-pound dude. "Hey, Hogan, can I have an autograph?" in his fake little voice. And
Where are you,
Hogan,
little dude?
"Sure thing, little dude." And he turns around and Sting gets him with the bat. Well, bam, right in the knee.
Yeah, it's like, how did you not fucking see him sneaking up on you and you were looking in that direction? But like, what the fuck, dude?
Well, you just heard a little Hulkster voice, and he's just like, "Oh, I gotta give this kid an autograph, brother."
Gotta help the little brother.
"Did you take your vitamins?" "Oh, my knee."
Oh, Stinger, no.
"Stinger, no, that's my knee. We got a main event later."
We got a main event later, brother.
So Tenay tries to talk to Hogan later, and Hogan like is going back inside. He's like, "I gotta do this fight, brother." And Tenay goes, "That was the inside scoop. More back to you, Shivani." Okay. And I love how now I love this. I want more of this in like modern wrestling. Sting has taken this dude out. You know, he's tried, right? And then they cut to him in this like dank room. And he's got his feet up on a table. He's sitting on the little metal chairs and his bat's tapping on it. And he's looking at this old like 1980s monitor.
Yeah. Very old television.
Yeah, very old. And I was like, I need like someone backstage on like an AEW show that tried to take someone out, like Jericho. And he's watching like this old CRT TV and he's tapping the bat Floyd that he calls. And he's just going, and he looks at the rest of JS. He looks at Anna J and he's like, "Seems like I'm not done tonight." Then they have to go up to the CRT and turn it off. Right? Flip the switch.
It would be great if there was a follow-up at one point. I know this would totally screw over the main event. But they should have done a separate thing midway through the show. Flair arrives in a limousine, and all these women come out to, "Oh, Nature Boy!" Sting's like, "Nature Boy, over here!" Smash them.
He keeps doing the same trick, and they all fall for it. I'd be okay with that.
Brett's like already in the locker room because he knows how to do his job.
Right, he already got that. "Brett, how come you didn't get taken out?" "I got here 2 hours ago like we're supposed to."
I've been at catering.
I show up to work on time. So then later we cut in to Hogan in the medical room.
Yeah, man.
And
what's up with the knee, brother?
"What's up with the knee?" "Oh, I was hit with a bat, And they're looking at each other, and you see the door kind of slowly go open, and Sting just goes, "Gotcha, Hulkster!" And he hits him again with the bat in the knee. Hogan goes down, "Ah!" And the medical guy, he said something. It was something like, "Oh my God, what was that?"
He should have come in with like a medical mask and like smocks on. Like a doctor.
And he clearly still has his gear underneath.
He's got his makeup on.
Yeah. "Oh, who was that?"
Are you the doctor, brother? "No, my knee." Not again.
"All right, Hogan, I'm going to need you to bend over." "Yes, sir, brother." "Ah, my knee." This was great. I love this part of Nitro. It was so absurd. Great stuff. I don't even remember if Hogan came out for the main event or not. I think it was just a handicap match.
We'll find out shortly.
All right. So let's see here. We get Ernest the Cat Miller versus Chris Benoit. The ring's bigger. Did you know they made that change?
A little bit. Barely, but it did look different.
Oh, God. So Sonny Ono and the Cat are kind of giving Benoit a hard time. The point is, it's a DQ. Shit goes down. The Revolution come out, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is all leading to this group sucks. This Revolution group sucks. They're really bad.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's about to meet a demise too. We're not too far off from that, but yeah, I mean, you look at the talent. I mean, you've got Benoit, Malenko, Saturn's good for the most part, and Shane Douglas, who you would expect a lot from if it was 1992. But
Did Benoit
they
end
are
up
not
winning this match?
Yes.
That's right. There was another
believe
match
so.
later in which it was like the Revolution, the Filthy Animals, and all them. Okay,
Yes.
mix those two up. Forgive me. My Nitro thoughts are all over the place.
That's okay. Benoit murders Ernest Miller here at the end. So the cat who comes out and wanted a title shot at anybody at the beginning of the show.
That's right.
He certainly got what he asked for. He got his title shot, and
I love his threatening of the fans. It's kind of his shame shtick every week, but he goes, "I want a title shot, and if you WCW don't give me a title shot, I will whoop everyone in this arena's asses."
Yeah. Oh man, I just don't see how people weren't getting prepared for that when WCW would come to town.
Well, WCW thought
WCW
he's a 3-time karate champion. He's gonna whoop all their asses. Send out Benoit, not Sting. He asked for Sting. We'll send Sting busy. We'll send out Benoit.
Sting's waiting in the shadows for Flair to arrive.
Right. Let's see here. Vampiro versus Buff Bagwell. The Clowns were not there, and this was a good match.
I meet two more different people on the WCW roster than Buff Bagwell and Vampiro.
Buff kind of had the stuff in this match, I will admit.
He did pretty good. I would say I'm not totally sold on Buff Bagwell. And isn't this at the time where does he still have the mustache, or did he shave it off? I'm struggling to remember. It feels like he shaved it off for this match, but maybe I'm thinking of next week's WCW.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Buff wasn't bad. You know, he did the blockbuster, which is always a cool move to see. You know, at the time at least. I mean, there's I'm sure there's quite a few people who do a blockbuster nowadays.
Not as many as you think.
Buff.
It is a neat move. I used to do that move on my brother, being safe at home, of course.
Yeah, man. It's a good move to have once you learn how to do a front flip, especially on a trampoline.
It's easy, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess this is the start of them trying to push Buff Bagwell again once the Berlin thing is in the rearview mirror. But
Buff Daddy.
This sequence of events needs to be said. After the match, we start hearing Shivani and Heenan are on commentary, and they're talking, you know, like, "Hey, main event, blah, blah, blah."
Yeah.
Shivani, Tony, darkness is coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tony Shivani's like, "What the fuck was that?" It's that in my earpiece. And apparently, this did not. This was not part of the next vignette that was going on. This was not part of the same video package. This was something totally different. I thought it was this. I thought it was part of the same like sequence of event that was happening. I thought it was a setup for Lex Luger's dead. Right? Did you think that too?
Yes. But I mean, that next segment is totally off the wall, and obviously we're going to talk about it. But yeah, I was like, all right, well, that sounds like, you know, that sounds like Dustin Rhodes, right?
Oh, I didn't get that at all. I just thought it was some deep voice.
Tony, it's Vince. But yeah, no. So you hear this weird voice, and apparently only Tony could hear it. I don't remember the brain reacting to it. Tony's just like, "What the hell?"
Yeah,
what's happening?
Very weird. But yeah, that is. So we've had a couple like weird things like this over the past number of weeks. We had Vampiro. I think it was for Vampiro, with a voice coming over the speaker. Then we had like weird piano music, which then Sid Vicious came down to the ring with the piano rolling from the ceiling, and I guess that's the maestro. But because of how they shot it, it seemed like it was part of Sid coming down thing. We've had this, and now we have the funeral of Lex Luger.
Did you know that he? No, I shouldn't say that, but it's like we're all led to presume that Lex Luger is dead until his ghost emerges from his body.
So his ghost appears. It's looking down at his dead body in the casket. Great man,
kind of puts
great champion. Cut to the cemetery. This woman in black throws flowers on the grave.
Yeah.
More ghost Luger. Great man, great champion.
Only one person showed up to his funeral.
Right. Yeah. And then it cuts back to the arena. The woman in black is revealed to be Miss Elizabeth, who looks. Well, she looks good, but she looks like super sad.
Yeah. Yeah, she's very upset.
She's very upset with Luger's death, and I was like,
mourning
man,
the loss of
what are we doing?
Lex Luger.
And then we cut to the ring, and it's Lex Luger. Now he's officially renamed as the Total Package. He's just Total Package. He's got the lights on him. He's got the oiled up body, and he's just flexing.
Bro.
More flexing. And you hear Tony and Bobby just going, incredible. Oh, that physique. Look at this man.
I mean, granted, that man had more lats than any other person I've ever seen. But bicep game, little weak, bro. Come on. You gotta
Yeah, of course. Well, he did ruin his bicep. I think he tore it a number of months ago, but
yeah.
I'm like looking at this going, so we killed Lex Luger. He's part of this heel group. He's now Total Package, but he's literally just the same bodybuilding guy since like 1989.
And what does that mean to be Total Package? Like is it?
I don't know.
Is this like a? I don't know. Is this like a way that like old baseball scouts used to refer to like hot prospects? Like, oh yeah, he's a 5-tool kid. He's a total package. Or are we talking about like a full, what are we talking about here?
I have no idea. I have no clue. This was so weird.
What is a total package?
And so I thought the Dustin Rhodes thing was not until Russo. Not true, apparently. They clearly had this plan before him.
Yeah, we get the teases now, which is all right.
We have the Maestro piano guy. That's before Russo. And now we have Total Package before Russo.
Yeah, man.
Man. Memory's all out of whack.
Well, what's weird is like they're like, oh yes, that's the death of Lex Luger. He's now the Total Package, right? But they still refer to him as Lex Luger. Right. They'll keep calling him Lex and Luger all throughout the show.
Of course.
We had no build to this at all. Like it was just like, oh, here's a funeral home and the ghost of Lex Luger is talking to you now, which is like, I guess is kind of cool graphic wise at the time, but still.
Like I was baffled. I go, why are we doing this? Like he's a main eventer. It's like what's the everyone's booing him. What's happening here? We couldn't have Luger just go, you know what? I think it's time for a change.
Call me.
I'll see you next week.
Call me Package.
Like that's
Total Package.
Call me Package. Total Package. Package for short. Friends call me Package.
My friends call me Package. First name Total.
God. Dean Malenko versus Rey Mysterio. Boy, this main event Dean Malenko push sure worked out, didn't it?
Yeah, man. I mean, granted, these are two top dudes here at this time. Like, why WCW couldn't see this is beyond me. but these guys are just amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, yeah, good match. But then mid-match, we get Rick Steiner and Sid arriving in the building in this old-ass Volvo.
Man, aren't you guys like billionaires?
Supposed to be making some money, but their Volvo rent-a-car from 1985 is very relevant. Like, Sid barely fits in this thing. He couldn't get a truck.
Yeah, like steps off the plane. Give me the oldest, shittiest thing that you have here.
Yeah.
Rent a car.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. I think Sid comes out. He ruins another match. I think. But anyways, more like Revolution being mad at each other.
Yeah. So Mysterio. I mean, this was a really. I mean, for what we got to see, this was really solid build. Like the match was like technically great for as short as it was.
No, you can't. That's not allowed in WCW.
No. I mean, I thought it was really nice to see. But we do have this cocky Rey Mysterio, and Malenko. He's always kind of been a understated kind of guy. So when Mysterio kind of fools Dean Malenko with his lucha.
Oh, right, that's right.
Moves.
Yeah, Mysterio pins Malenko clean. That's right.
Yep, he crucifixes him. It's the pin. Yeah, that's Malenko didn't look too pleased with that, but he shakes Mysterio's hand. He's like, oh yeah, I mean, I got out wrestled. Shake the guy's hand.
Yeah. Goldberg versus Hugh Morris. Sid comes out mid-match, hits Goldberg with a chair behind the ref, leads to Goldberg selling a little bit. Hugh Morris gets some offense in. Hugh Morris is bad. I don't remember if you remember that, but he misses a moonsault. Goldberg hits a spear, pins him. Goldberg wants Sid. We move on. Simple?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty solid nostalgia, considering I believe Hugh Morris was
at this
point. Hugh Morris was Goldberg's first opponent, I believe.
Yep.
Hugh Morris looked primed and ready to go for this match. Now Sid does come down midway through the match, with a chair, dashes Goldberg in the back, and Goldberg kind of sort of sells it. He's like, I acknowledge that I got hit with a chair, so he's moving a little bit slower. He's also got this gash on his shin, which is just not too unlike the gash that Tony Ferguson had on his shin. As of last night, as of the time of this recording, last night there was the Ferguson Nate Diaz fight. Nate Diaz or Nick Diaz, I can never keep them straight. I think it was Nate. It's the younger brother. But yes, this was interesting. It was a little interesting little match here. Goldberg still dominates Hugh Morris, but of course the Sid thing with the chair, a little caveat there. You didn't really know. Maybe Hugh Morris was gonna pull this one out the bag, but that is not the case here.
More Nitro Girl stuff. If you look at old ratings breakdowns, these segments are death.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're really good.
It is interesting to see the dancing. what was passable for dancing, I guess, as of this year. But hey, I'm not one to judge. I can't dance for shit. So, but I'm like, this doesn't really feel like Nitro Girl material vibes. I'm trying to get in to the segment here, JD, and it's just not. They're just not letting me because the dancing's not great.
I guess Stacy Keibler better show up soon.
I hope so, dude. I hope so, because she's the light that is at the end of the tunnel here.
Evan Courageous loses to Berlin. Berlin's got the Wall bodyguard. I don't think they call him by name yet. He's just the bodyguard. They're doing the hits him with the punch. Berlin will win. Okay. We're how many weeks of doing this now? Let's go. Come on, I'm into Berlin, and they're losing me.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe this is just my lack of remembering, but like I can never remember him finding like ever being put with somebody who was like a legitimate threat to Berlin.
Well, I mean, he's winning matches. I like the big bodyguard shtick where he can punch him and that'll get him the win. And the German machine, don't cheer for me, Berlin's orders kind of deal. Do not make noise during the matches. He wants pandemic. He wants pandemic crowds. But
he'd be great in this era.
But I'm really getting the feeling that Berlin isn't going anywhere.
No. No, it's kind of sad because I really did get to the point where I wanted somebody to kick his ass, but
instead we got Brad Armstrong coming out again, and I just went, oh,
yeah, man, yeah,
we can't have like Buff Bagwell, I guess. There aren't a lot of I don't know if you know this about Nitro. There aren't a lot of like young guys willing to work with each other. It's very strange. You know, Berlin against the Revolution would be interesting.
Yeah, or even like Kidman, right? Like
the Filthy Animals.
Throw Kidman in there. Yeah, Filthy Animals. I mean, they were heels at the time, but I mean, you put Kidman in there. I mean, and him and Tori, you know, as we'll see later.
Maybe Harlem Heat starting a feud with Berlin and the Bodyguard. Maybe, you know, these are just ideas.
If you asked me who embodies late 90s WCW from top to bottom, I mean, I would be hard pressed to find somebody who would be a better fit than Billy Kidman. He had that look. He was not great in the ring.
Despite what people remember. I mean, there's some good stuff there. We'll get to a match later that was good stuff I liked. Anyways, we gotta get moving.
He's a guy that's yeah, fair enough. He's a guy that's easy to cheer for, I suppose.
Goldberg breaks into Sid's locker room, steals the keys from some dude. I guess I'll cut to the next segment with Goldberg and the keys. Sid comes out, sees that he can't find his keys. He goes to see if his Volvo is still there. He's like, okay, it's still here. All right, goes back in. And then a tow truck comes, and Goldberg says, bring it back by 11. Now remember this. David Flair can't find Tori Wilson, so he, in his amazing acting abilities, calls a phone, puts a call on a phone, and he goes, "Where's Tori?" I'm sorry, that's way too much emotion. Where's Tori?
Domino's Pizza here.
Yeah, right. Oh, I forgot to mention, it showed Goldberg looking up in the yellow pages earlier, and there was like pizza parlors and shit on the page. Well, yeah, okay, old school stuff. Cool. I guess we'll do the second David Flair thing. We cut later, and it's the Filthy Animals with Tori Wilson in a locker room. David Flair somehow gets that number. I guess he doesn't put two and two together there, but he's like, Tori, where are you? What's going on? You weren't at the air. Oh, I'm sorry, David. And she's all distracted. The Filthy Animals are giggling like schoolgirls in the back. And Tori's like, I don't know, my flight was delayed. My bags weren't there. There was a fight in the airport. All kinds of things. And then David just goes, well, I'm sorry, too much emotion. Well, need to see me. And he hangs up. He hung up on me. Dominic Mysterio, man, geez. I'm sorry, David Flair. He's quite the thing. Harlem Heat against Kendall and Barry Windham. This match was an atrocity. This was so bad. Nothing was good about it. I don't care who wins. I think Booker T gets the pin, and that's it.
Well, you did just to backtrack just a little bit. Berlin did also beat Evan Courageous, since we were on the topic of Berlin just a moment ago.
Well, of course Berlin beat Evan Courageous. He's the German machine.
He is the German machine. Yeah. But yes, the Harlem Heat, Kendall Windham, Barry Windham match. I don't need to see these two teams again. I want to see something different. Something different here. Please.
Rick Steiner defeats Van Hammer for God knows what reason. This was also horrible. The show got really bad really fast.
Yeah. Van Hammer came out in the singlet, I guess, because he was going to match Rick Steiner power for power here. Yeah, man. That was not a good match either.
Bret Hart out with a chat with Mean Gene Okerlund. He says things like Hulk Hogan is the Elvis of wrestling.
Stealing stuff from better people.
Yeah, he talks up Ric Flair, said he had one of the best matches of his career in early '98. They replay Bret Hart getting hit in the face, and it like, remember us talking about that? It looked like horrible. It looked terrible. It looked like a shoot. We were questioning things. We're like, man, is Bret really hurt? Mean Gene sees it, and he's like, man, they really did a number on you. Are you okay? Did you get like a concussion or anything? And Bret Hart, despite all this, still goes, nah, it's a couple stitches.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Don't worry about it. I was like, oh, okay. And he talks up the main event, and that's it. So, okay. Heenan talks about the mask versus hair match. Sid is then told Goldberg stole his car keys. We get Perry Saturn versus Conan. This is the one where it's like the DQ brawl. Don't worry about it kind of situation. There's like a million dudes in the ring fighting. What's his face? Douglas pulls Perry Saturn out from getting his ass beat by like 10 dudes, because the numbers were just so wild. And Saturn's like, I don't need your help. I didn't ask for it. And you had, I don't think Benoit was out there, but Malenko's all mad at Douglas too. And Douglas like storms off. Forget it. So it looks like the Revolution may be in trouble.
Yeah, man. It looks like things are not all good at House Filthy Animals. Not Filthy Animals. House Revolution right now. It's not looking too good for them, but
not everything's looking good in the Filthy Animal House.
Well, I mean, Tori's there now, so I think things are looking up. But on the other side of town where the Revolution is, it's I don't know, man.
Let's see. This is when the tow truck comes. Blah blah blah. Page out for a chat. Talks about his hot wife. Good for him.
Yeah, man.
We see ZZ Top in the crowd for some reason.
Yeah.
Kidman versus Psychosis.
Billy Gibbons, or a guy who looks, very much like Billy Gibbons. Yeah.
Yeah. Kidman versus Psychosis. My match of the night, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was good. It was built up well. It had like Juventud and Chavo distracting the ref. Good near falls on Kidman. Like, they even got in, hit their like big move. Kidman kicks out. Crowd started going nuts. Like, it started off a little slow, but with like the odds stacked against Kidman that he's going to get his head shaved, the crowd likes Kidman well enough. Not as much as they probably should, because of, I don't know, the cruiserweights being jokes at this point in time. But they built it up well. Kidman ends up getting he thwarts the heels, hits the shooting star that we haven't seen in a number of weeks, months. Pins Psychosis. Psychosis doesn't want to really take off his. Bear in mind, he had already lost his mask in Mexico like 3 weeks ago. Yeah. So Psychosis and the group start putting the boots to Kidman. And Kidman, let's see, the Filthy Animals come out to even the odds. Kidman hits a bulldog on Psychosis, and his mask comes off in the motion. And then we just never see his fucking face. His hair's in front of it the whole time.
Yeah, he is still a mystery.
So, I don't know. It's WCW. They could just probably put the mask back on.
Yeah, we will see the face.
Yeah.
7 years later in the future when he's part of the Mexicools.
Oh no, you're right. Main event: Hart and Flair in a handicap match against Sting, Diamond Dallas Page, and Total Package.
Total package, brother. Yeah, man. This was for all the hype, this was very much a standard tag match. Flair does all the things that you expect him to do. He sells really, really well all throughout it. Really kind of puts the onus on Brett, which is the right thing to do, I feel. But obviously it's a 3-on-2 handicap. Hogan's not there. They needed Hogan because, gotta book me strong, brother. And yeah, man, this could have been better than it was. I will say that. But it's just kind of a bog standard tag team match.
Yeah. So if you watch this on the Peacock, there's actually things that are removed at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So what I believe many people will miss out on is after the match ends via DQ, because of course it does. Luger gets the bat, nails Flair, blah, blah, blah. That's not important. We know like 9 out of 10 times a Nitro main event will end in DQ. Unless it involves Hogan and pinning someone.
Yeah.
David Flair runs in, he gets beaten down, and then we cue to the back. We see an empty ambulance. Hogan limps out, and Hogan cleans house with a bat, sends the villains packing. So it's 1999. Hogan is destroying everyone, while Flair and Bret Hart are mere mortals.
Yeah, man, they're just watching in awe of the Hulkster.
Yeah. So, fuck that. That's stupid. I hate this. I hate Hogan, like, constantly at this point in time.
Yeah.
I don't want to cheer him. I never want to cheer him. Now he's making my hero, Bret Hart, look stupid and terrible. And Bret Hart only has, like, a couple months left. So this is very depressing.
Yeah. I mean, if the idea was, Hogan's going to come down after the match, then why don't you just have both Hart and Flair look like they're in a desperate position during said match? Then Hogan's music hits, and Hogan comes down, he gets the hot tag, and then he goes over anyway, because that was the inevitable thing to do. That would have just been so much better.
Right.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it. But then we get the greatest Nitro ending of 1999, where it cuts to Sid in the back, and he sees his car flattened. And here is the audio of said instance. Here we go.
Oh my God! What happened to my car? Goldberg! Where are you? Goldberg! Goldberg! Goldberg!
I fucking love it.
Why me? Why me?
I love it. He jumps on the flattened car, puts his hands in the air. Goldberg! Oh my God, my car! I was in tears watching that. It's so funny. It's like, that's how they end Nitro. The bag falls down. No! My Volvo!
Why, God? Why?
What? Why does this happen to me? Goldberg! I would love to see, like, when they were gonna tell Sid, when they did tell Sid, all right, here's the idea.
Here's what's happening.
Your prized 1985 Volvo that you couldn't fit in, we're gonna flatten it, and your role is to be very upset about this because Goldberg has ruined your car. Okay. All right. That's my angle. Yeah. Perfect. Got it. Goldberg! Or Or they just hand him the script. Oh my God, Goldberg. Oh. Oh my God. Tanner, can't hear you.
No, you can't hear me?
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw you talking.
How Goldberg how Goldberg never made it in acting, I'll never know. Or not Goldberg, Sid. How Sid never made it in an acting career. I'll never know. This was gold here. You know, if he could just do this the rest of his career, brilliant.
Yeah, jumping on cars, screaming to the heavens.
No!
He'd do this all the time. He'd do this angle. Not another Volvo! No!
No, not again.
Not before my title match this Sunday!
That's great.
The mind games of Sid Vicious and Goldberg. Is it weird that this is kind of like the best built thing on the show?
Goldberg and Sid. This is great. Love it.
It's a shame we're gonna have to see him wrestle.
Yes.
Unless Goldberg just squashes him, like in the 2 minutes format, that'll be good.
Yeah, I'd be down for that.
Yeah. So that was Nitro. Is that the best Nitro that you and I have reviewed together?
I gotta say it's up there, man.
I think it is.
Gotta say it's really up there.
We had decent matches. We had a good start. Despite the Lex Luger thing being baffling, I still laughed and enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Main event was the main event was fine. We just have our critiques about it. Goldberg, Sid Vicious continue their feud in actually something that makes sense, and they're getting in each other's heads. They have quite the task of trying to build that for the next 5 weeks, but that's where we're at. The mid card is definitely, and the middle of the shows are definitely super terrible. They don't know what the fuck they're doing with any of the other people. But if that's the standard we're going by, good show.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, this was good. This was really good, and I'm glad that I'm glad that we got to watch this one because it's just so much happened here. Really, so much was.
I might
was
just
going
play
on
a
with the
bunch of
show.
clips in the future, especially when we get to the Russo era.
Mm-hmm.
Might just do that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, play whole matches instead of recounting it all. That'll be quicker.
Yeah, true.
Maybe.
I'd be down.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode. Tanner, good having you back.
Oh, it's good to be back, man. Yeah, let's do this again sometime.
All right. See you in a couple weeks.
All right, later, man.